the app or call 0700 3.
Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Barry Kumo Ado. In the headlines, Professor Joy Eze advocates greater investment in child respiratory health. ENUGU State Government signed renewable energy deal to power 4 rural communities. South Korea court sentences ex-President Yoon to 30-year jail term over drone incursion. And Trump cancels shadow bombings against Iran. Details in a moment.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
A professor of pediatrics at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Joy Nkireze, has called for urgent reforms in pediatric health care in Nigeria. Professor Eze made a call at the 242nd inaugural lecture of the University of Nigeria held at the auditorium of the CBN Center for Economics and Finance at the ENUGU campus of the university. Correspondent Christopher Lele was at the event.
In growing concern about childhood respiratory illnesses in Nigeria, prompting calls for stronger intervention. At the 242nd inaugural lecture of the University of Nigeria, experts, policymakers, and health stakeholders examined the growing burden of the childhood ailments. The inaugural lecture drew health professionals, policymakers, academics, students, and community leaders, underscoring the national importance of pediatric respiratory health. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Simon Otuahia, who was represented by the Deputy Vice-Chancellor in charge of administration, Professor Josephat Omowere, described the lecture as both timely and significant. He noted that rising respiratory health challenges among children require evidence-based responses and sustained attention of policymakers.
So on behalf of my boss, the Vice Chancellor of University of Nigeria, Professor Simon Otuahia, I declare this inaugural lecture open. Thank you.
Delivering the lecture entitled Pediatric Respiratory Care in Nigeria, Pulling Down the Mountain and Building the Ladder, a professor of pediatrics and pediatric pulmonology, Joy Nkireze, highlighted the growing burden of respiratory diseases among Nigerian children. Professor Eze called for greater investment in prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and healthcare infrastructure.
Currently, air pollution causes more than 9 million deaths out of the deaths related to environmental sources. So in our study, in checking the clinical profile and risk factors in patients admitted with acute respiratory infection, Chinawa et al. In this study published in the Current Respiratory Medicine Review in 2020 found out that the major causes of admission in these children who present with respiratory infection are pneumonia and bronchiolitis.
We are asking for support. We want the government to prioritize treatment, diagnosis and treatment of pediatric respiratory, and even prevention, because they say prevention is better than cure. If we're able to prevent respiratory diseases, we will prevent the long-term effect, which is lung damage.
ENUGU State Commissioner for Health, Professor George Ugu, praised the inaugural lecturer's contributions to child health care, describing her as a distinguished scholar whose work continues to shape pediatric practice and research in Nigeria.
Joy has always been strong, promising, and exceptionally brilliant, unassuming, and works exceedingly hard So it's more or less expected that today we were waiting for today and today has come. She has excelled in all the realms of academic and professional life, and that is what it means to be an icon in medicine.
Colleagues and stakeholders commended the depth of the lecture, noting that its recommendation provide valuable insights for addressing persistent respiratory health challenges and improving outcomes for children nationwide.
One thing I have learned is to keep on working hard. Mind and remember that the children should be allowed to live. They should be allowed to exist.
For family members, the occasion was both a celebration of achievement and a reflection on years of dedication, hard work, and service that could inspire future generations.
I thank God. I thank God for her. Huh? If I want her, I thank God for her. But today, I thank God for her. Huh? That's my child. It's very, 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 very have brain. Huh? If you're primary school, they're wonderful. Huh? And the school. All the school know her. About know the thing where you know. So, I thank God for her. I'm very, very happy. Like the day where I born her.
I feel very happy for this day because it's a celebration of realization of hard work coming to fruition. Is a lady, very good woman that is focused in whatever she's doing. And this is the result of her hard work manifesting today's inaugural lecture. So I'm very, very happy, and I thank God for that.
The event climaxed the presentation of certificates, award, and gifts to the inaugural lecturer in recognition of her academic excellence and contributions to medicine and child health. Health experts agree that tackling pediatric respiratory diseases will require stronger policies, improved healthcare funding, expanded access to specialist care, and sustained public awareness to protect the lives of Nigeria's children. In ENUGU, Christopher Lele, Signature TV News.
The National Identity Management Commission has commenced the training and certification of more than 4,000 staff members nationwide as data protection officers as a major step towards safeguarding the personal information of Nigerians who enrolled in the National Identity Number System. The initiative, being implemented in partnership with the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, comes amid growing concerns globally over data breaches, cyber threats, and the misuse of personal information. Speaking at the press conference in Abuja, NIMC Director General Abisoye Koka Udusote said the program underscores the Commission's determination to strengthen public confidence in the country's identity management system by ensuring that citizens' data are protected in line with international standards. She explained that the training would equip staff with advanced knowledge of data privacy, governance, cyber security, breach prevention, and incident response, while fostering a culture of accountability across the Commission. On its part, the National Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, Vincent Olatunji, described the exercise as unprecedented within the country's data protection ecosystem. It disclosed that NIMC is the first public institution to undertake the certification of its entire workforce as data protection officers, describing the move as a model for other government agencies. With over 120 million records already captured and millions more expected to be enrolled, experts say the success of Nigeria's digital transformation agenda will depend largely on the ability of institutions to protect citizens' data from abuse, unauthorized access, and cyber threats. The Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde says the school children and their teachers abducted by suspected bandits in Yawota and Ahoro Esinle communities on the Rire local government area of the state are still within the old Oyo National Park. In a fresh update on efforts to rescue the abductees who had been in captivity for 27 days, which he released on Friday, Makinde said the victims remain the focus of ongoing security operations. He acknowledged the pain and anxiety being experienced by the affected families, stating that although he had repeatedly assured residents that the victims would be rescued and reunited with their loved ones, he understood that such assurances might offer little comfort as the days continue to pass. The governor urged residents to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activities through the state's toll-free citizens inquiry number 615, assuring the public that all credible reports will receive prompt attention. The Borno state government has reintegrated a total of 720 men, 992 spouses, and 2,050 children who had repented and surrendered to troops after many of them were de-radicalized, disarmed, and rehabilitated. These latest categories of repentant insurgents who swore on the Holy Quran form part of Batch 9, low-risk and minor clients who are to be reunited with their various communities across Borno State. This was disclosed by the Special Advisor to Governor Babagana Zulum on security, who is also a member of a de-radicalization, rehabilitation and reintegration of repentant insurgents. Retired Brigadier General Abdullah Ishaq at a colorful ceremony which took place at a Hajj camp on Friday. Said event marks another milestone in the Borno model non-kinetic approach to the fight against terrorism in the northeast region of Nigeria, particularly, and Borno State in particular. The women, according to General Ishaq, were also trained in catering services, knitting, cup making, tailoring, and soap making, among other skills. President Bola Tinubu has warned bandits, kidnappers, and sponsors of terrorism in the country to repent and surrender or face the full force of the law. In a nationwide Democracy Day broadcast on Friday, Tinubu stated that a window for surrender and repentance will not remain open indefinitely, and that no mercy will be shown to those who trade in the blood of Nigerians. However, cautioned Nigerians against politicizing insecurity, attaching criminality to any ethnic group, or pointing fingers. The President commended the armed forces, police and intelligence agencies for their sacrifices in safeguarding the nation, while thanking traditional rulers, religious leaders and community heads for supporting peace and reconciliation efforts. He expressed confidence that Nigeria will ultimately overcome its security challenges and emerge stronger. Tinubu said Nigerians should reject pessimism, division, cynicism and despair, while embracing unity, hope, confidence, and shared vision of progress. President Bola Tinubu has also urged Nigerians to continue holding his administration accountable, but warned them against losing faith in the nation and its institutions. In a Democracy Day message on Friday, the President said disagreement with those in power should not translate into cynicism about Nigeria's future. Told members of the National Assembly, the judiciary, the media, and civil society organizations to see themselves as the guardrails of democracy, whose role in questioning authority and defending democratic principles remains indispensable. Tinubu insisted that rather than seek on questioning loyalty, democracy thrives on scrutiny and robust public discourse, provided citizens remain committed to the Nigerian project. He urged stakeholders, including INEC, security agencies and all parties, to ensure that the forthcoming elections in Ekiti and Osun states are peaceful and credible. The House of Representatives has passed a state police bill following up voting on the floor during a plenary session presided over by the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas. Coming a day after the lawmakers debated on the bill, Abbas announced that 288 lawmakers voted in support of the bill, while 4 were against. The voting was by a show of hands, as the Speaker explained. The electronic voting system was not functional. The bill seeks to strengthen Nigeria's security architecture by creating an additional layer of policing while providing constitutional safeguards, clearly defined operational frameworks, oversight mechanisms, and delineation of powers between federal and state policing authorities. The development comes amid rising insecurity in parts of the country. The bill has meanwhile scaled second reading in the Red Chamber, and the Senate President Godswill Akpabio said the lawmakers will vote on the bill during the next sitting. The ENUGU state government has taken another significant step towards expanding access to electricity and accelerating rural development with the signing of an agreement for the electrification of 4 underserved communities in the state. Initiative supported by the European Union, the German government, and private renewable energy developers is expected to provide clean and sustainable electricity to thousands of residents who had lived without reliable power for years. Speaking during the ceremony, Chairman of the ENUGU State Electricity Regulatory Commission, Chijioke Okonkwo, described the project as a major milestone in the quest to deliver electricity to underserved communities. Okonkwo said the grants for the project will cover the procurement of critical infrastructure, including solar panels, batteries, inverters, poles, cables, and other equipment required for the installation of integrated solar mini-grids with a minimum generation capacity of 200 kilowatts in each community.
They have done their homework in the sense that these 4 communities fall into the category of 413 communities that have been identified that are either underserved or unserved. So we have done our homework to first identify the communities, ensure that there are no electricity infrastructure in that place, that somebody will come and lay claims tomorrow and say, no, I started my own project that I want to complete it. No. We don't expect that there will be any form of encumbrances. And these developers have engaged with the communities to get the communities buy-in to their project. So the communities have already welcomed them in, identified land for them, and signed their exclusivity agreement, which was one of our major requirements, that they are willing to have them come into their own space and set up the project.
The Secretary to the State Government, Professor Chidebere Onya, who stood in for Governor Peter Mba, said the partnership aligns with the administration's vision of transforming ENUGU into a leading investment destination through strategic infrastructure development. He noted that reliable electricity remains critical for economic growth, health care, education, security, and sustainable rural development. Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, Franklin Enyina, stated that achieving the administration's ambitious economic growth target would require dependable power supply across both urban and rural communities.
So what we're experiencing today with our partners, those that actually have just received the contract, but with GIZ particularly, is a commitment to support the vision of this government. So I want to thank GIZ and all the partners, particularly for just trusting and believing in the state. I know we are one of the 3 states that were selected for this, but Enugu State is among the first you are starting the process. This is because of the level of commitment this government has when it comes to infrastructure development.
The deployment of a solar mini-grid systems in the 4 benefiting communities of Okbatu, Uboka, Agunta, and Ijebe is expected to be completed within 6 months. Veteran actor and comedian Chief Chiko Okpala, popularly known as Chief Zebradayo Korigwe of a legendary NTA television sitcom New Masquerade, recently turned 76. At a brief ceremony organized by friends and admirers, Chiko Okpala expressed gratitude to Almighty God for preserving his life and granting him good health over the years.
Yeah, we're here. Well, thank you again, God, for this. The students have come to honorable me with Silver Club Napoleon. Napoleon walking and walking. Yeah? Chico was a good chopper. Choppers. I'm not just here with her. If I don't have I hear. But that is we have not. So I'm so happy. Thank you very seriously, the students of Bishop Okoye. I know you will never forget me, and I will never forget you.
Yes. In Jesus' name.
I'm in cultural office, and chief cultural director and cultural teacher are here.
Yes.
So if there was this show without this, you might never be able to do the show. Because a man of cultural. Thank you very, very seriously, and I'm so happy to be alive today. That I'm 76 years.
No! Look at this guy. Look at this guy. 70.
I've tried. I have shown what I could be able to be does
Yes.
to the public.
Yes.
And
Chief Akpala also used the occasion to appreciate Nigerians for their love and support throughout his career and urged them to continue promoting peace, unity, and national development.
Right. My birthday message today to the then people of Nigeria are that things are difficult, but we can untighten it, lose it up by our attitudes and by the way we face life. Let us subpedal a bit and come back with full force. That's what I'm told them. That's my birthday message. Let us not feel as if we are going to kill everybody. No. We will get there. If I'm able to get up to 76 today, or I wish the younger youth to also aspire and get to that 76 that I am today. So I'm so happy that I attain this age. God has allowed me, after all trials and tribulations, I am still able to keep alive.
The brief event, which took place at Godfrey Okoye University Thinkers Corner, featured the cutting of a birthday cake and accompanying songs.
Yes.
You.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. How old are you now? How old are you now? How old are you now? How old are you now?
I am +1 today. I am +1 today. I am +1. I am +1. I am +1 today.
Many more years to you. Many more years to you. Many more years, many more years, many more years to you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you now. May the good Lord bless you.
The event was witnessed by student leaders, members of the Chika Opala Book Presentation Organizing Committee, and family members, including the wife of a veteran entertainer. The Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs has announced that 4 further repatriation flights are anticipated to return Nigerians who have indicated a desire to depart South Africa due to recent xenophobic violence. Spokesperson of the ministry, Kimebi Ebimfa, disclosed the plan after the first group of 258 Nigerians arrived at Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos on Thursday morning. Said that the screening exercise for Nigerian citizens in South Africa began last Thursday and scheduled to conclude on Saturday has been extended to Sunday, with over 1,000 Nigerians already taking part in the screening exercise. The BFI told journalists that the exercise has given more Nigerians the opportunity to be screened so that they will take advantage of the flights that Mr. President has graciously paid for to convey them back home. He added that the returnees will be temporarily housed in a facility hosted by the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons for documentation before being reunited with their families in various states. Still to come, Congo's Ebola outbreak spreads to new health zones. Burna Boy, Shakira thrilled spectators in World Cup opening ceremony. Stay with us.
We are local.
The international community is observing every...
Just finished the
Right, the main market is in chaos. People are...
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
We have taken the vote by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Congo's Ebola outbreak has spread to 3 new health zones, with the number of confirmed cases increasing to 676, including 136 deaths. The health minister said in a post on X that the latest figure released by the government represented the total number of confirmed cases as of Wednesday. The new health zones impacted by the outbreak were in North Kivu and Ituri. The health zone in Congo's healthcare system covers a defined area with a network of clinics and a referral hospital covering around 100,000 to 150,000 people. There are over 500 health zones in the country. A South Korean court sentenced former President Yoon Suk Yeol to 30 years in prison on Friday for charges linked to his ordering an incursion of military drones over North Korea to help create a pretext for his failed December 2024 martial law declaration. The Seoul Central District Court found Yeol guilty of aiding the enemy and abuse of power, saying he had conspired in the October 2024 drone incursion over Pyongyang from the outset. The ruling adds to a series of judgments against the ousted conservative leader once South Korea's top prosecutor was martial law order plunged the country's economy into its deepest political turmoil in decades. His lawyers said it neither ordered nor later approved the operation, which they said was unrelated to martial law and instead a response to mounts of North Korean launches across the border of balloons stuffed with rubbish. In February, a South Korean court sentenced Yoon to life in prison after finding him guilty of leading an insurrection linked to the martial law attempt. The former president, who has appealed the earlier rulings against him, is already in custody and can appeal Friday's lower court ruling. China's foreign ministry on Friday confirmed the arrest of Ming Xin, a U.S. citizen who leads a think tank focused on Myanmar, saying the American was suspected of spying and endangering Chinese national security. A foreign ministry spokesperson, Lin Jian, told a regular news conference that Ming Xin has been placed under criminal detention by the relevant authorities in accordance with the law on suspicion of engaging in espionage. China has notified the U.S. Consulate General in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou of the arrest and detention, which is coming as the U.S. and China work upgrade their frayed bilateral relationship following U.S. President Donald Trump's visit to Beijing last month. A former student activist who participated in Myanmar's 1988 democracy movement, Ming Xin studied political science at the University of California and was initially based in Myanmar but moved overseas following the 2021 coup when the military ousted the democratically elected government of Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi. U.S. President Donald Trump said it was calling off strikes in Iran and flagged the signing of a possible deal with Tehran after top-level talks. Trump said on his Truth Social network that based on the fact that discussions with the Islamic Republic of Iran have been brought to the highest level of Iranian leadership and approved, he has cancelled his scheduled strikes and bombings against Iran. Iran had warned Washington that it risked wading into an endless quagmire of war and soaring energy prices after Trump vowed to launch a new round of airstrikes and to seize an island oil terminal. Iran's chief negotiator in talks with Americans, Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bahar Ghalibaf, issued a stark warning after the two sides exchanged overnight fire and Trump threatened that U.S. forces will hit very hard. The war, which began on February 28 with a wave of U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, was paused on an April truce, but efforts to hammer out a permanent end to the fighting have since stalled. The conflict has destabilized oil and gas prices, fueling inflation and fears of recession in many economies, with the World Bank lowering its global growth forecast to its lowest level since the coronavirus pandemic. Afrobeat star Burna Boy and singer Shakira had the spectators out of their seats at the opening ceremony for the 2026 World Cup in Estadio Azteca, ahead of the opening match between co-hosts Mexico and South Africa. For the 8-team tournament is also being hosted by the United States and Canada and will feature 104 games culminating in a final in New Jersey on July 19. Dancers twirled around a giant model of the World Cup trophy, while fireworks went off in the historic 80,000 capacity stadium, which hosted the 1970 and 1986 World Cup finals and has been renovated for this year's tournament. When there was a festive atmosphere inside the stadium, there were chaotic scenes in the center of Mexico City, with thousands of fans pushed and shoved as they attempted to enter the official World Cup fan zone shortly before the kickoff. Access to the fan zone in the Zocalo Plaza was hampered by metal barriers erected in recent days to prevent protesting teachers reaching the area. Some fans threw water bottles and hurled insults at police, as well as chanting in support of a Mexican team. Local government announced on social media that the site was full and suggested fans go to other plazas. That's the news. I am Barikumo Ado. Thank you very much for watching.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Welcome to The Sage, a show, but I like to call it a journey, an exciting journey in which we will be working with you, discussing with you, showcasing to you exciting hidden treasures, treasures that reside within our countries, our communities. I am Dr. Kechi Obuagu, the privileged guide for you on this show, The Sage. We will talk about that later. But let me ask you, how many of you out there have ever thought about what is the most wonderful resource this country has? I have thought about it, and I think for sure that the greatest resource any country can have is indeed its people. The wonderful, talented, hardworking, positive, inspiring people that we have in our country. And therefore, this exciting journey is going to be about that. It's going to be about bringing forth, showcasing, sharing the stories of these people, having them come to this show and talk to you. What is it that drove them? What have been their achievements? How did they make it? I know for certain they will inspire you like they have inspired us. So yes, it's going to be a truly exciting journey in which you will see many, many wonderful people. While we will bring some, we are also counting on the fact that many of you out there would know other similar people whom you can reach out to us to, and we may be able to showcase on this show. We're excited. There's a lot more to come. Come journey with us. I'll see you in the next segment. Great, it's good to be back. Thank you for staying with us. I come to this segment of the show where I talk about what I thoroughly enjoy doing, that resource, those hidden treasures that we will spend this series of shows ahead to bring to your attention. But while I talk about that, let me just say that to indeed make the most of our resource, to capitalize on it, to make our resource function in the best way that it can, that empowerment, that building up that is required needs to be a truly collective effort. Everybody needs to pitch in. It is the work of everybody. Government has its role, an important one. Government should do its bit. But it's also about all of us that form this nation. The private sector, the non-profit sector, the donor sector, the communities, name it. Everybody has an important role. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. In the last segment, we had dwelt a little on the issue, the concept of the hidden resource, our people, our wonderfully talented people. But let us also talk a little about the sage. As I said before, I am your privileged sage on this journey. What is a sage? My humble understanding is that a sage is someone, first of all, who has spent many decades on this earth. And I think I qualify amply for that, having spent well over more than six decades. But not just because you have existed on earth, but because you've also had the special privilege of having been able to travel extensively. That helps. To meet people, to interact with people, to work with people, to learn from them, and to have spent time reflecting on those lessons and on how they can indeed impact, I like to say, positively on the society. If it's negative to me, you shouldn't dwell, you shouldn't end the title of a sage. And so why do I think I can step out and ask you to bear with me and allow me to be the sage on this hard journey? I am a public health physician. As I said before in the other segment, I'm Dr. Kechi Obwago. Been a public health physician for well over 40 years. I have taught for many years in this country, had the privilege of bringing many young doctors into the profession, but have also been blessed with the opportunity to work internationally. I think I can say with some confidence that I've been to almost every continent in the world. I have worked with people, interacted with people. And so I have cheated by bringing you down in this segment to my living room so that I can show you evidence of that travel. On this little table, for instance, here, I have bits and pieces of beautiful art. This is from Kenya. This is from Tanzania. This is from Tunis. This is from Ethiopia. This is from Morocco. The list goes on and on. This beautiful table and the jogs are Ethiopia. So many. As you take a walk around my living room, they're not just there as decorative pieces. They are also there as a reminder of the journey of perhaps over 30 years around the world, in which it brings back the lessons of the pains, the travails, the joys, the excitement, and all it has meant in the journey of this sage. But let me say that having come back finally to roost, now I'm retired. When you retire and you're blessed with relative strength and health, you wonder to yourself, what should I spend my last days and years doing? And many times it should indeed be what you feel most passionately about, where you think you can still contribute in making this world a better place. And so for me, I decided it was people, but particularly young people. My experience from my work across the world has shown me over and over again that when you invest, sponsor, and mentor, young people can be amazing. Let me tell you that within the past few years since I came back home, it is what drove me to set up as president and founder of an international nonprofit, Conversations for Change, C4C for short. Within our 4 to 5 years of existence, this organization has worked tirelessly. I am indebted to my team of young people to the many others there who have served as advisors, for the programs we have put in place, and for the amazing achievements we have recorded. Within the last 2 years, we have built the capacity of well over 30 young people in entrepreneurship. We have established 20 businesses. They are thriving, they are resilient, they are social entrepreneurs who are committed to contributing to their society. And many of them you will indeed see for yourself and hear for yourself in this program. We thank the many partners that made this possible, because we didn't do it alone. And so, yes, Dr. Kechi Obuagu, President and founder of Conversations for Change, who is a total convert based on the results of Conversations for Change's work, is asking you to journey with me, to discuss and work with us, to empower particularly our young people, to make our country the great nation it truly is. In the successes C4C has recorded in the recent past, we are very proud to acknowledge some key partners. There were many others who gave individually from their pockets, but 3 key partners of note include Seplat Petroleum Corporation, a truly philanthropic indigenous organization. Seplat has supported us generously. They have shown interest in what we do. They have been there for the activities we have organized, and we are grateful to them. And we think they typify, they exemplify what every indigenous flourishing corporation in this country should do. As you make, through your hard work, you make profits, you give back to the communities from which you come. And so we thank them for the support they have provided for this program. We are also very happy and proud to acknowledge the support we have received from the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. We want to say that they were perhaps the first. They are in Malta, of course, a UN agency. They were the first to indeed believe enough in us to put money behind what we do. We thank them for the support they provided in the first year of this initiative. And finally, least, but certainly not the least, is a group of really remarkable ladies. A club called Club 12, made up of distinguished, experienced ladies. Heads, many of them retired PAMSECs, heads of government, people who have worked nationally and internationally and made their mark and have indeed contributed their bit to society. These retired pensioners have dipped over and over again in their purses to support our initiative that seeks to empower young people. They have supported the entrepreneurship initiative as well, and we remain greatly indebted to them. This is just to illustrate the fact that it is all hands on deck. All of us have a role to play. Our young people are not just our tomorrow, they are our today. And when we empower them, we empower our country, we empower the world. And so, welcome back. I hope we've whetted your appetite. I hope we've been able to provide a little glimpse of what is to come. My firm promise is that it's going to be an exceedingly exciting journey. In the weeks to come, we're going to bring to you truly, truly inspiring people, many of them young. And we will leave you with pride in our country. We will leave you with pride in our people. Over the next few weeks, we will bring you wonderful entrepreneurs, people who have scaled the glass ceiling, have shattered the glass ceiling, have reached for their dreams, and are making it. Not because of any special advantages, but because they have skills, they have talents, they have determination, and they're working hard. We will bring you artists. We will bring you fashion designers. We will bring you tailors. It doesn't have to be so esoteric. Young people doing many different wonderful things. We will journey with them. We will hear their story. And together, we will be inspired and moved to the next level of using some of these experiences and stories shared in also finding ways to build up the rest of the people who need building up in our country. Let me again say that while we have made wonderful, exciting discoveries that we already programmed to show to you within the next episodes that are coming, you are also very welcome to write to us, to get in touch with us. If you know exciting people young there, particularly young people who deserve to be here on this platform with us and tell their own stories. It's going to be truly exciting. We're going to enjoy every minute of it. And I, as the sage, will do my best to make it worth your while. Welcome. Let's begin the journey. And so we've almost come to the end of this particular journey, just this one, because there's a long journey still ahead, during which we shall be sharing many exciting, wonderful episodes with you, during which we shall, as we have said, be bringing many talented, particularly young people who have made it. Young people, through no special favors of any type, have taken the challenge, have followed their dreams, have taken the risks involved, have scaled the glass ceiling. They've built up their businesses, they've stuck with the challenge, they work day and night to establish those businesses. We shall be showcasing before you many young people of all kinds of industries, enterprises, some in photography, some in fashion, some in tech, many, a lot of them out there. And they shall be sharing their stories, as we have said. And I promise you, they will inspire you as they have inspired us. Let me also use this opportunity to say that not only will we be bringing those whom we have discovered, because like we said, this is a journey of discovery, But we ask you also if there are people out there who you think deserve to be here showcasing their efforts. Please do write in to us and tell us. We shall be very pleased to screen them and put them on stage to talk to us, to share their experiences. And so, let the journey begin. It's going to be exciting. It is a journey which we shall undertake together. And we look forward to being with you for many more weeks ahead. Thank you and have a great evening.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on eVibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
I should try harder, so...
Okay, I don't know that one.
Outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that. That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hub's on eVibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signature TV.
Nigeria are not practicing true democracy. Why? Number one, what is democracy? It's the government of the people, by the people, for the people. But the people are not seeing what the government are doing. The government is just deceiving people. There is no true democracy. So to me, democracy is not, this celebration is not even worthy to be celebrated, because things are getting worse and worse and worse. Instead of us to achieve, we are going down.
Since you said we are practicing democracy in Nigeria, now look at the situation that we as a country, we are passing through now. Come to security. Some days back, we were hearing of killings in Benue and Plateau. And you said you are practicing democracy, and up to now you have no plan for you to address all these issues that is happening on the platform. And anyway, you can't say that is democracy. So seriously, to me, I don't think we are practicing democracy here in Nigeria.
Actually, in my own way of understanding, we are not practicing democracy. We are not at all. Because what is happening is not in line with what we expect should happen in this country. After that June 12th election, being a successful election, but just that you know what happened. Presently, what happened is that these days we are not doing that same way we expect. What happened today is that the more you have powers and the more you are influential, that is the more you win election in Nigeria. Or you know how to manipulate, that is how you win election in Nigeria.
To be sincere, democracy is not seen in the country practically, because democracy, according to the definition, is a government of the people, by the people and for the people. People elected them. But I don't think from the legislative to executive are going by the wish or will of the voters or the citizens. If you compare Nigerian democracy with some other nations like South Africa, you can see a very clear difference.
The democracy we are practicing, we will not get there in one day. Gradually, we are moving forward. Democracy, no matter how, is better than military regime. So, I supported democracy, and the practicing may not be perfect now, but we get there.
Nigeria's democracy is still going through a thickening problem. Honestly, I've been looking for an opportunity to air my view as far as this issue of democracy is concerned. It's a big shame, despite where many countries who are democratic, they don't. This is not democracy in practice. This is not democracy in practice. It's just on paper. But I believe that with time, there is hope. There is hope, but just that we are not really where we got democracy from. This is not how it is done. We celebrate so-called criminals. You see criminals walking on the street. Is it democracy? They recycle them. Well, there is hope.
We are local.
International communities observing
Why the main market is in chaos. People.
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye. Aye.
We have taken the vote by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Hello Nigeria, good morning and welcome to New Day on Signature Television. My name is Christopher Lele, and this weekend I hope you're having a great one. I hope you are having a restful one as well. Yesterday was Democracy Day, and a couple of celebrations were here and there, celebrating the democracy and of course the heroes past, their efforts, and of course Nigeria as a country on its own. I hope you had a nice one too. Welcome to Signature Morning. Coming up shortly is Newspaper Review. Stay with us. Welcome. So we go straight to the papers making the rounds this morning on the national dailies. The first story on my desk is the Nation newspaper. On the Nation newspaper, the major story here says APC moves to douse post-primaries tension in 7 key states. And the writer says Kwara, Nasarawa, Rivers, Adamawa, Benue, Bauchi, Taraba affected. Abducted students, teachers still within Old Oyo National Park. Makinde speaking there. Dixon to NDC members stop the bickering name calling. Rider says ex-Bayelsa Governor Obi, party leaders. All right, that's for that very one. Back from South Africa with tears, returnees recall ugly experiences. And Rider says Uzodimma cries out of 300 million naira. So South Africa returnees, law students. All right, and inside the market digital den of cash flaunting bandits. Police bust Ogun's Hawks kidnapping scam. And Borno reintegrates 720 repentant terrorists after rehabilitation. That's just about it on the Nation newspaper. Away from that newspaper, let's take a look at the Saturday Independent. On Saturday Independent, the government will improve media communication engagement for public understanding on economic policies. Oyedele speaking there. A court upholds dismissal of ex-JAMB deputy director. Still on the Saturday Independent newspaper. Special report, are we truly alone? How America's UFO files are challenging faith, humanity's oldest beliefs. June 12, do everything in your power to rescue Oyo Borno abductees, Nance tell Tinubu. You can find that on page 6 of the Saturday Independent newspaper. Abacha offered Abiola bribe to renounce mandate. Oshomole speaking there. Protected on paper, vulnerable in reality. Why Nigeria schools have become bandit soft targets. That you can find on page 30 of the Saturday Independent. And lists of entertainment industry talents remain untapped. Suleiman Sporty Ogebo speaking there. And finally on this paper, NADF's 10,000 tractors will drive enterprise development, job creation, says Tinubu. All right, let's look in at the Guardian newspaper, Guardian Weekend. The Guardian Weekend, the major story here says 2 decades after, proposed abolition of common entrance sparks debate on 934 policy. And then this other story says Ekiti 2026 governorship poll, the parties, candidates, and chances of victory. Dangerous assumptions that ruin June 12 majesty. At lawsuit, NDC, at Law Summit, NDDC deepens legal frameworks for Niger Delta development. Renewed Hope National Media begins Southeast Projects inspection. Unilag must compete effectively with global peers, VC declares. June 12, Nigerians chart path to deepening nation's democracy as Tinubu honors heroes. Court affirms dismissal of ex-JAMB deputy director over misconduct. A legislature that cannot say no is not a legislature at all. Siraki speaking there. And finally, on this paper, security forces capture 6 notorious gunmen, recovered arms, ammunition in ENUGU. Grab a copy of the Guardian Weekend. You see that all of the stories mentioned. Let's take a look at the Saturday Punch. On the Saturday Punch, terrorism, Yoruba monarchs to invoke deities against the bandits. That's interesting. A dislodged terrorists migrate to southeast, south-south. Dislodged terrorists migrate to southeast, south-south. A rider says Abia, Imo flagged as targets. Anambra transit route, Kogi Central Hub. I lost my leg chasing a thief. Now my family lives like beggars. Retired police officer speaking there. Dixon meets Obi, says NDC crisis fully resolved. Local informants fueling terror operations. Defense minister speaking there. June 12, rescue Oyo pupils. Other kidnapped victims. Protesters tell Tinubu. South Africans treated us like animals. Returnees recount xenophobic horror. Burna Boy, Davido, other Nigerian stars who took Afrobeats to World Cup stage. All right, so that's just about it on the Saturday Punch newspaper. Let's now take a look at Saturday Tribune newspaper. Orire, we are pursuing every lead to free adoptees. Makinde speaking there. Rider says no Omotoco personnel has died in Orire operation. Exclusive. Suspects open up. How we planned Adelabu's sister, her twins kidnap. Rider says initial plan was to abduct ex-minister's mom. Suspect speaks on their links with governorship aspirants. NDC crisis. Dixon Obi resolve differences in 3-hour closed-door meeting. After years in the bush, 720 ex-Boko Haram fighters returned to Borno communities. Warri Fed constituency second. Warri Fed constituency the second. Warring parties agree on power sharing. That's just about it on the Nigerian Tribune. Now we have the Saturday Vanguard. How Abiola refused to sell June 12 mandate. Oshimele speaking there. Gory tales from South Africa. Rider says they removed one eye of my friend. Wasiu speaking there. You can find that on page 32 of the paper. Elon Musk turns world first trillionaire. But how much money is $1 trillion? $1 trillion. All right. Yes, we can fight terrorists with juju. Yoruba monarchs agree with ONE of life. ONE of Ife. Our ancestral power is real and effective. Without firing a gun, we can protect our forest. Traditionalists speaking there. Showore VDM Falono files lead Democracy Day protests in Abuja, Lagos. And the rider here says activists demand action on insecurity, unemployment, hunger, etc. Showore collapses after inhaling tear gas. Fresh fears over terrorist commanders who surrendered. They disengage but never ENUGU security forces captures notorious gunmen. Ozodema releases 300 million naira for Imo returnees from South Africa. Oyo kidnap, Makinde breaks silence on rescue efforts. That's just about it on this paper. This way I will call it a stop on the stories making the round on the national dailies. Our Oracle is with us in the studio that we are going to discuss this. Batuka, good morning and welcome to Signature Morning.
Good morning, Chris, and good morning, my dear people of the world. This is another new day.
Yeah.
On Signature TV. where we will look at the newspaper headlines and the matters arising from there.
A statement from here, the Nation newspaper says, abducted students, teachers, still within Old Oyo National Park.
That is interesting.
From the governor of Oyo State.
As the chief security officer, in quote.
You know where they are, so to speak.
That's it. That's where I'm coming from. Old Oyo Park. Is it a 5-star hotel? Is it a rendezvous point where people go for what they call it, a picnic, and secured by policemen, and they go to laugh, drink, dance, eat what they have come to rendezvous with? Is the Oyo Park where you have the abducted school children and their teachers? Is it a restaurant? Is it
restricted from his jurisdiction as the governor of the state?
I'm just coming because it's enough. If you say you are sure as governor of the state they are still there, well, fine and good. What we are looking for at the bottom of the plate of soup, Chris, is either fish or meat. Nobody is interested for where they are, because wherever they are is horrific. It's not a conducive environment for children of that age, and even their teachers. That environment is not good for anybody, not even animal, under that condition. Was it not in the Sen Oyo Park, if governor is saying, was it not there a teacher was beheaded? He said the Sen Oyo Park. Was it not there where one of the children died? Because that one couldn't contain the stress. Is it not there that they are melting plastics and dropping on top of school children's back and body, and he was punching holes? In horrific video they are sharing. Is it not the same? Yeah. Is it not the same Oyo Park? So that you say they are in Oyo Park, so what? The release of these children and their teachers is all everybody is asking for. Where they are, it's not, because where they are can be known. How they are there is another. So let Governor Makinde, since he is still in charge and has all the intels, to tell the newspapers where these children and their teachers are still. Let them hasten out the effort. Let them do what they can do to make sure these children and their teachers return home alive. You know, and that reminds me to tell Nigerians, there are certain things I do not understand. Nigeria gives so much emphasis on rehabilitating repented terrorists and bandits. What has Nigerians done for people who came back alive, few of them that came back alive from the hands of bandits and terrorists? In a sane society, they will be taken through trauma, psychological and physical rehabilitation. That's the most important thing, because you might be rehabilitating those ones who have repented from killing people. And the ones they tortured and saw death, maybe escaped to become alive by thin line, will become the monsters in their future. Because they will not forget. Nothing will make them forget.
Or even forgive.
You're right, Chris. So what is government doing? Emphasis, since this issue of monster, of bandits and terrorists, the government has been spending so much on rehabilitating repented. The few Nigerians that have escaped to come back alive, or they have released to come back, after releasing they abandoned them. Nobody has thought about how their life will be. Some of them will never be sane human beings again in their life. Some of them will turn mad, will have mental sickness. Some of them will become monsters.
Hallucinations.
Because some situation turn people into monsters. This is so. If we are talking about Onye Jiji, let's talk about Onye Onya. When we are talking about the fly, let's talk about the person who has the wound. Two of them need rehabilitation. And it is insensitive for government to have been rehabilitating only the repented, and they left We have never, since we started talking about, had the way government, Ministry of Health, non-psychologists, and psycho experts, neurologists, and all those ones, being put in a place to invite these people to give them counseling and rehabilitate them over time to be able to accept this country as their country. And because if you remember, and this country and this thing happened to you, you will come back and ask God, why should you ever be born in Nigeria? It's I say it because when you carry the corpse of another person, it looks like a log of wood. I wish any of the people in high places will go there and come back, and then probably they have money to pay for ransom, and they come back and they will not go to foreign countries where they get their health to be. But for these ones, Nigerians, wretched of the earth, masses, once you even are negotiating, paying a lot of trillions to bandits and terror, once these people manage to come back alive, the government will think they have done noble and they will leave these people. They need to also be rehabilitated. That's the point I'm making. And it is insensitive for us not have thought about it as a nation.
The traditionalists are suggesting using voodoo, juju, to also be in the process. And it's, for the first time, I think I'll have to agree with this, because if we have such power, why are we not taking advantage of it?
Chris, you're becoming, I'm suspecting now.
No, I'm serious. As a traditionalist,
I'm beginning to see a traditionalist in you.
No, if we have such power, and we know what we are going through as a nation,
let's be serious.
Can we take advantage of it?
We're reviewing newspaper headline. We're not looking at the morality or the credibility or the effectiveness or the potency of it. My father told me that anything you believe in guides you. And he also told me that you always make sure you use everything available for you to reclaim victims from the hand of captives during a time of war. Nigeria is fighting a war. Very big war with bandits and terrorists. And during war, you have saboteurs and the people who are complicit. Some of our security men are complicit. Some politicians in Nigeria have been fingered. You heard of the person who they said a politician was in. So you see, but in all this, you on the fighting side, we use both the gun that has bullet and the one that doesn't have bullet to reclaim, to go and win the war. Both psychological, physical, spiritual, anything. Because even go to the army have chaplains, people who, you have imams, you have chaplains and priests, and all kind of religion in the army because they also need spiritual guidance. So, it is not out of place. If the people who are keeping the holders of some of them that still have potent, who have not been defiled, of these are cultural potent, beliefs and things that work for them. Why can't they use it? They don't defy battle. Chris, when me and you are fighting, I won't be telling Chris, this is why you hit me. Don't hit me here. Anywhere you think you are punched, we weaken your opponent. Do it! Because if you don't, and the person first pull the trigger, you're gone. This is war. The Yoruba traditionalists, if they think...
Yeah, they have what it takes.
It's not they've thought a bit about it. Not even when I'm saying what they think. They have thought about it and made it known so that it came out in global newspaper.
Yeah.
So let them go ahead. Let it not be political. There we like a Nollywood, Nigerian Nollywood. Hey, I'm going to go to Chris' house today. If I go there, I'll kill him. I do that. Don't even talk about it. Like Tony Montana will say, do not use the F word. He said, if you want to shoot, shoot. That's what I expect now. We don't expect to start discussing it. In fact, to my little belief, when you begin to discuss such potent juju And how you're going to use it, it might weaken the potency. And people like you, Chris, who are the strong people in this can tell us, but I have very little knowledge of it, so that nobody will be trying me and say this one is I'm not. I know where my job ends. I am a broadcaster, and when you talk about it, I come out and defend my sector. Everything, these jobs are divided. So whoever one that is your job, use it to defend your territory.
Okay, so let's talk about NDC, where we have Cherokee Dixon and Obi in a meeting for about 3 hours, and then Dixon coming to say that every issues in the party has been resolved.
It's to their best interest they resolve. To tell you the truth, the little thing that NDC has done, we believe that if we have P2B in that party, all members of that party should have, then they came out or rushed to make him their flag bearer, should also study the character of their flag bearer and made it to bear on what they are doing. You can't accept a pope, in quote, as the leader, the pontiff of Rome, and you go at the back to bring juju from the traditional Yoruba community and follow at the back. If NDC think they are good party that deserve good people they are attracting, they should show it. From the information available to me, and because I don't want to sound somehow, they have not done well with their primaries. A lot of people are offended with the way they conducted the primaries. But I said, it might be because of the kind of, they're trying to meet deadlines about. But even if when you're trying to meet deadlines, there are certain things you expected not to do. So that you don't use pepper to cure madness. You don't think in a way that, some people are expecting you, that they make you come out, we are going to burn you with fire. You will and bath with fuel. That's what the NDC was trying to do. So the sooner they settle down, and they begin to call back, I can tell you in my constituency, some of the people who have been waiting for them to release the result have gone to other parties to accept tickets. Primary, they finish since. They carry result to Abuja. Is it Abuja that the NDC did their primary? I am the loud-mouthed native doctor. I don't do juju for thieves and criminals. So if NDC want to go and show us that they are good party, let them start from the small to the end. Let them not begin to bring some woo and try to justify it. It's too early. So if Cherokee Dixon, the senator, distinguished senator, chairman of NDC, the leader, has resolved the issue, who is the result? We're expecting they call their stakeholder party. Can he resolve all that is NDC and all their grief issues with only P2B? Are they the only two people? They have to better be careful, because anything they are doing, and they didn't do it very well, is hastening the helping other parties to make them weak. So it's better that you say, this is our stand. Maintain it to the end so that people will see, even if it's the NDC, they see as the only party that stands on truth. But when you begin to be like, they are the same, it's the same crucible, they used to cook all of them, they are all Nigerian position, you have weakened yourself. Because when the rush that they attracted, if they also dash the hope of all the people who rush to NDC, then the question will be, so what is all about? People will give up and say, so there's no need, they are all the same. Let NDC and other parties, anyway, both the central ruling party, or not always give Nigerians room to say they are the same. Let them do some things different at times. Because the Nigerian politicians do not, and they are the way they politic, do not command good response from people. And they don't want to listen, because what their target is just to win. The end justify the means. And they will come back and start telling us all those lies again. And they are not tired of telling lies and deception. And that's not politicking. Let we have some kind of party that stood their ground for ideology, stood their ground for values, stood their ground for morality, stood their ground for once, and people will now, after some time, they say, that party, you don't mess with it, whether for good or bad. That they will not, like our dear Azikiwe told us, Nanda Azikiwe, of blessed memory. He said, I cannot hit below the belt of my opponent just to win political advantage. He maintained the principle until he died, and his names are on record. Some of these Yahoo politicians, they don't have value. They are politicians of easy venture, politicians of kobo and afu, politicians of soup ready, food is ready. They don't believe in anything. Among all, just show me which of them talks about their ideology, which one that talks about what the principles, something, what is those things that when we are students, the student leaders will come and read during the election time. They say manifesto. They don't. They will write it on paper. I saw one of the headlines say protected on paper, but in physics, that is it. They will have big papers, go to the offices, some of them read. Some of them, I swear with my life, bring one of the politicians, ask them the manifesto of their party. None of them can tell you what your party stands for. What is it? Even some of them don't know the logo, the corporate philosophy of their. Some people will go for one party. They have seen them in big campaign, national campaign. They are calling the tagline of another party. So if it is PDP, whatever they say, power to the people, they will go to another party and still say power to the people. That will tell you that they are totally confused even in their life. They are not creative. Our politicians are so deceptive that they are dunces, but they think they are sharp. Just because they will Yahoo, why you go through to get, that's all they are looking for. And very soon Nigerians are becoming aware and they're following them. 2027, nobody, Chris, quote me as, will vote for party. Nigerians have begun now to look for where you have some few people in Nigeria who look like human beings. It can be anything, and they win. It happened a little in 2023. It's going to repeat itself. Nigerians are looking for some parties where they have a semblance of human beings. Not that any of them, just something that will say, at least. And that's what they're going to vote for. All these hula baro about party does not. You go to certain communities, you enter some families, you have APUGA, you have APC, you have NDC, you have ADC, you have APRP, you have SD, you have NP. All the parties in one family. That will tell you how aware Nigerians are becoming. So when it gets to that time, they will look for, you can find out in the House of Assembly, the person that will win is a party that nobody will give chance. But when it comes to, they now start like that to vote. So we're going to have, you have to have a very, 2027 will be a definitive year.
I like the way you're saying these things. It's so hopeful. But we just hope that we won't still come across cases like glitches, rigging, and
the rigging will be there. The rigging will be there.
Counter the hearts of the people and all the right.
That's when the Nigeria we don't use that they're waiting for Nigeria to burn them with fire. They will go and bath with fuel. If the politicians in 2027 still go ahead to do this kind of thing, it do not talk to the people to go and start telling people what they can do to show some semblance of campaigning, and they think they will read. If they try it in 2027, for what I'm seeing, Nigeria will go in flames. Let them not even bother. It's not going to work at all. Not in that blatant alacrity they did it in all the time past. If they try it this time, people are getting, not with this what is happening. And people are trying to make some statement that you come back now. They will tell you, this is not life, or die and die. That's what I've heard them say. And because I'm close to the community, and when I come and sit there, I will be balancing it with the news what I say, so that people will say, I'm not manufacturing anything I'm telling you here. I can give you evidences of what people are saying about this country. Let any politician who is fighting for ticket now, better go and get ticket and go to the masses to begin to talk to them. And not talk about individual. Not when you go there, they ask you, what are you going to do for us? You tell them, Peter Obi is a man, is a stupid man, I'm going to kill him, then you call for a fight. That's not winning your election. Whatever you have as your product, sell it. Leave individuals alone. This is an advice I'm giving them. No kobo, no thank you. And this is an advice for that, but they will think I'm joking, but they will try it and see.
Okay.
And come back and sit on this desk when few of them will come and tell us about the experience.
All right. We are so behind time, but I still need you to tell us your blessings.
Yeah. Time will not take my usual blessings. God bless you for having been with us. This is our morning tonic.
Yeah.
It's a morning coffee, burning hot. Once you finish it, you begin to sweat. You can see even in air conditioned room, I'm sweating. So I use Nigeria Wahala as warm up, and newspaper headline topics in Nigeria, which most of them are negative too. So I think it's all for the good of the nation. No harm intended. For anybody who feel I'm so hard on it, if you are a politician, change. And if you think I am talking too much, it's because you are doing too much, because my job is to talk. So if you stop doing too much, I'll stop talking too much. God bless you when you consider that this is our nation, we need to live well. God bless you if you are not selfish and deceptive person. God bless you if you are not ethnic and tribalistic for a nation that God has blessed so well. So God bless you as you think well for us. God bless you as you think well for yourself and for others. God bless you, Chris. God bless Signature TV that is trying to also use whatever they are doing to preach welfare of the masses. God bless you. But in all the God blessings, we always pray for. Remember, that God blessings are meant for those who deserve to be blessed. Thank you.
All right, then this is it for this segment of the show this morning. We'll be jumping off for a short break. When we come back, we have interviews lined up for your watching pleasure, where we discuss things happening in the society. We'll learn one or two. We also have a retrospect coming up shortly after that too. Please do stay with us. All right, so for those that may have missed out on the president's speech on June 12, in case you're wondering what really he said, you've been hearing parts of the conversations on social media and of course, some other platforms you find yourself. We are going to have a play of the speech from the start to the end, so you actually have a full understanding of what the president said, and also have a better knowledge of what is going on in the thoughts of the presidency. Let's take a watch.
Fellow Nigerians, today we celebrate democracy and the enduring Nigerian spirit. For 27 unbroken years, since May 29, 1999, Nigerians have chosen their leaders through the ballot, witnessed peaceful transition of power, and resolved disagreement in courtrooms and legislative chambers, not through violence. We have experienced the longest stretch of civilian rule in our history. Our democracy is not perfect, but it is ours, and we must continue to defend and strengthen it. In the coming days, Ekiti and Osun states will hold elections. I urge INEC, security agencies, and all parties to ensure these polls are peaceful and credible. Democracy fails when citizens doubt the process. To our National Assembly, judiciary, the press, and civil society, you are the guardrails of our republic. Criticize me, disagree with me, but never stop believing in Nigeria. To our young people, Nigeria is your home and your future. Build here, code here, work here, and vote here. Every great nation was built by those who stayed to solve problems, but not by those who abandoned ship. To our armed forces, police, and intelligence services, Nigeria salutes your sacrifice. To our traditional rulers, faith leaders, and community heads, thank you for your support of peace and reconciliation. The government cannot do it alone. Today, we honor the resilience of Nigerians who refuse to surrender their faith in freedom and the courage of those who stood firm against intimidation. We pay tribute to patriots who endured persecution, imprisonment, exile, and even death so that future generations could enjoy democracy. I salute labor leaders, journalists, activists, students, women, professionals, political leaders, and soldiers, both those who passed and those still with us, for their patriotic contributions. Though this year's mood is dampened by the abduction of our children in Yoyo and Borno, we remain hopeful for their safe return. Democracy without security is not solid enough. That is why this administration has chosen both kinetic and non-kinetic strategies to restore peace, declared a security emergency, and approved the recruitment of 50,000 new police officers and thousands of military recruits. Our 2026 budget commits 5.41 trillion, our largest ever, to defense and security. We have moved from training with our allies to precision targeting. In Arege, we degraded ISWAP and command centers. terror-related deaths are down by 81% since 2015. Over 13,000 terrorists have been neutralized in the past year. But we also keep the door of surrender open. Over 124,000 fighters and dependents have laid down arms since 2023. Through Operation Safe Corridor, we turn our former enemies into citizens because every life saved is a victory for democracy. To bandits, kidnappers, and sponsors of terror, surrender or face the full force of the Nigerian state. These windows of surrender will not remain open forever. No mercy will be shown to those who trade in blood of Nigerians. At a time like this, let us not assign blames or point fingers. Crime has no ethnicity. We must stand united and be assured that the enemies of our nation shall soon be history. We will triumph over terror and continue to build a more prosperous nation. June 12 occupies a sacred place in our national memory. It represents more than an election. It is a defining chapter in our history. We remember Chief MKO Abiola, who won a pan-Nigerian mandate transcending ethnicity and religion. We remember Alhaja Kudirat Abiola. We also remember Chief Ganifa Emi, Chief Bola Ige, Chief Alfred Rwani, and Pa Abraham Adesoya, Chief Anthony Enahoro, Alhaji Balarabe Musa, Commodore Dan Suleiman, Beko Ransom Kuti, Franco Kori, Arthur Nwanko, Chima Obani, Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and the many other heroes and heroines of democracy whose sacrifices helped secure the freedom we enjoy today. As beneficiaries of their struggle, we have a duty to strengthen and deepen the democratic institutions for which they fought. The greatest tribute we can pay is to build a Nigeria where freedom is protected, justice is upheld, opportunity is expanded, and government is accountable. June 12, 1993, revealed the possibility of a true Nigerian nation. The heroes of June 12 secured political freedom. Our challenge is to secure economic freedom. Democracy must be felt in the quality of people's lives, in opportunities for youth, in prosperous farmers, successful entrepreneurs, and the dignity of our workers. The reforms we are undertaking were not chosen for ease, but for necessity. 3 years ago, our public finances were under severe strain. Investment was discouraged, and economic uncertainty threatened our future. We chose to act, embracing reforms to advance Nigerians' economic freedom. Since 2023, our reforms have restored stability and credibility to economic management. Federation revenues have risen, providing state and local governments with more resources for infrastructure, education, health care, and security. Fiscal transparency has improved. Leakage has been reduced, and public funds are better directed to national priorities. Investors' confidence has returned with investment in agriculture, energy, manufacturing, technology, mining, transportation, and the creative industries growing. Domestic refinery capacity has increased, strengthening energy security and reducing our reliance on imported petroleum products. By 2023, when we came on board, the electricity sector was characterized by chronic generation shortfalls and unreliable gas supply and transmission infrastructure, so fragile that they could not evacuate available power. Distribution companies were burdened by massive losses and a metering deficit of over 4 million. Worst of all, the value chain was drowning in legacy debt. The result was a sector that generated less than 13,500 megawatts installed capacity, a sector that transmitted less than it generated, distributed less than it transmitted, and collected revenue far below what it needed to sustain itself. To address the problem besetting the sector, I signed the Electricity Act, which grants state authority to generate, transmit, and distribute power. The Presidential Power Sector Task Force is working hard to reduce the metering deficit. It has also been authorized to raise a 4 trillion bond to settle verified legacy debts. Rural Electrification Agency, supported by the World Bank and the African Development Bank, has deployed off-grid and mini-grid power to underserved communities, universities, markets, and hospitals. Electricity is a democratic dividend we owe every Nigerian. We intend to deliver it. Across the country, infrastructure projects are connecting producers to markets and creating opportunities for the enterprise and employment. The National Agricultural Development Fund is deploying 10,000 tractors over 5 years. Over 1,000 SME have been certified for export. Non-export grew by 21% last year. Yet, many Nigerians still face economic hardship. We remain focused on reducing inflation, expanding food production, creating jobs, improving living standards, rebuilding confidence in our economy, and creating conditions for sustainable prosperity. We are moving from uncertainty to stability. The next phase is about accelerating growth and ensuring the benefits are felt in every home, every community, and every region. We believe that democracy must be felt in the pocket, recognizing that democracy is undermined when people do not feel its impact. My administration has sought financial autonomy for our 774 local councils. A fundamental challenge to our nation's advancement has been ineffective local government administration. The insecurity we are addressing is partly due to the collapse of grassroots governance. The Renewed Hope agenda is about ensuring that all Nigerians benefit from governance. Every generation has a defining responsibility. The generation of our founding fathers secured independence. The generation of June 12 secured democracy, our generation must secure prosperity. Let us move forward together, rejecting division, cynicism, and despair, embracing unity, hope, and confidence. Let us build a Nigeria united by a common purpose, strengthened by diversity, where justice is accessible, liberty is secure, and opportunity is abundant. Among the architects of modern democratic Nigeria, we honor General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua for his vision of national partnership. In recognition of his contributions, the federal government has approved the refertilization and renaming of the completed Institute of Petroleum Studies, Kaduna, as the General Musa Yar'Adua University of Geological Sciences and Engineering Technology. I'm also pleased to announce the national awards to the following Nigerians who suffered persecution, endured indignity, exile, incarceration, and at times solitary confinement, so that we have democracy today. Barrister Ayoka Lawani, Tunde Fagbele, Oladele Alake, Olatunji Bello, Louis Odion, Segun Babatope, Sam Omoseye, Sir Ademola Oshinubi, Bola Bolawole, Ladeboni Ola, Femi Kusa, Debo Adeniran, Chief Ayo Padokun, Chief Raf Obiora, Ose Osayode, Barrister Osa Director, Professor Sylvester Odion Akai, Dr. Nwanko Posthumous, Dr. Osage Obayiwana, Joe Oke Odumake, Barrister Titus Mann, Joe Igbokwe, Richard Akeola, Ben Charles Obi, Posthumous, George Umba, Niran Malaolu, Major General Shola Williams, retired, Femi Aborishade, Jenkins Alumona, Gbemiga Ogunleye, Muyiwa Adekaye, Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Ike Okonta. We also recognize the soldiers, Democrats of the June 12 struggle, Major General M.A. Garba, Brigadier General Lawal Jafaru Isa, Colonel Umar Farouk Ahmed, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, Colonel Lawal Gwadabe, Brigadier Jonathan Ndan Temlong, Colonel Musa Shehu, Major General Chris Eze, Major General Aris Dama, Colonel Isa Jibrin, Major General Joseph Oshanopin, Colonel Olusegun Oloruntoba, Olugbede of Gbede Kingdom, Lieutenant Colonel Happy Kevas Bulus, Colonel J. Okai, Colonel Emmanuel Unduboeze, Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Muazu, Brigadier Yaya Abubakar, the current Esunupe, who is already the holder of CFR title. The honored list will be released in the next few days. Fellow Nigerians, 27 years ago, many doubted democracy would survive here because of our diversity. Today, our diversity sustains our democracy. The road ahead is steep, but June 12 reminds us, Nigeria do not break. We bend, we bleed, but we do not break. Let us renew our covenant that the labors of our heroes past shall never be in vain, and that our government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this land. May God bless the heroes of our democracy. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. May God continue to bless us all. Happy Democracy Day.
We are local.
The international community is observing every
Right, market is in chaos. People are...
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye. Aye.
We have taken the vote by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
All right, so we have our next conversation this morning where we shall be looking at unlocking private capital for water, sanitation, and hygiene in Nigeria. And our guest to help us understand this is Dr. Nick Igwe, Global Head and National Coordinator, Organized Private Sector in WASH. Good morning, Dr. Igwe. Welcome to Signature Morning. New day. Nice, Doctor. All right, so let's go to the question, the program itself. Millions of Nigerians still lack access to clean water and decent sanitation. Why has attracting private investment into this sector still remains important?
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you again for having me. I think let me start by giving a bit of a background by using other sectors of the economy. Let's look at the energy sector. The energy sector at a time was not as liberalized and as transformed as they are today. Today now we have, not only in Nigeria, in some parts of Africa, independent power companies, organizations, because the government decided to understand the importance of the energy sector to the different economies in different countries of the world. And that is why you see that even in Nigeria, we now have metering, unlike in those days where tariff was just set based on government. They can say they want to, monthly is 2,000 naira, and everybody will apply for the government because they feel that they are paying nothing for power, not only in Nigeria, in other parts of the economy, in other parts of the country, of the world. And it became like a political issue. The same applied to the communication sector back in the days. In the 1990s, before the revolution of the telecom sector, you will understand how it was back then in NITEL, government holding on to that telecom sector. It never really worked out. Even in the health sector to an extent. Nigeria is doing very well when it comes to liberalizing the health sector, where even non-medical actors are actually coming into the sector to see how they can invest. Why? Because those barriers that used to be there, they are no longer there. People cannot invest. Even in Nigeria, robots can actually do operations in Nigeria and in other African countries and the rest of the world as well. This is because there have been liberalization, and we have seen the impact it has already made in terms of transforming those sectors. If you come to the housing sector as well, the housing. If you remember, there were those days where housing was like more government housing estate and so on and so forth. But now it has changed as well. You can see that individuals, companies can now have estates because there are mechanisms that have been put in place to make it sustainable for the private sector. Then I'll probably now come to your question. The reason why we have been in this very, very, how will I put it, very difficult and very tense situation when it comes to issues around water and sanitation in Africa is because of what people think that water is. That water is free, that water is a social good, that the government will be providing water, just like how government promised energy sector, telecom sector, thinking that everything was free. The people would just pay small amount of money. But it never, worked out. The water sector, unfortunately, has a lot to do with other sectors of the economy. You cannot talk about energy sector without, water. Of course, the hydro power and so on. The food security as well. The agricultural, sector has a lot to do with water. Health sector has a lot to do with water. Even the so-called housing sector, if you want to put it in that way, you cannot have a sustainable housing, estates or whatever, without sustainable water supply to those areas. All these sectors that have been transformed, they all depend on water to be able to sustain their operations. But the same water sector is where we are over depending on development partners and CSOs. Government think that people should come and donate. They don't see water as something that the private sector should come in to support. So there are those barriers that any person that want to invest in any sector, just like what we have seen in the energy, what we have seen in the telecom, what we have seen in the health sector, private individuals, if you the barriers, we'll still have lots of problems. So those are the issues that we have that is making it very difficult for private sector to come in. If you allow me, I will probably go one by one. What are those barriers? You don't just write it in a paper and say private sector should come and invest. We have PPP no model. PPP, public-private partnership, without policies, without regulatory framework, if you have certain risk that the private sector feel they cannot carry, no matter how much you paint it, they will not be able to come in. That is the problem we are facing in the sector. Millions of Nigerians do not have access to water and safely manage sanitation. But I want to let you know that it's not only in Nigeria. This is also in many parts of Africa, apart from a few African countries that have been able to exit that area, believing that this cannot continue. I will also come to them. The issues are the 6 risk factors, which I've been mentioning. Any private sector would like to guarantee his revenue generation, no matter how little it is. So the government should be able to sit down with them, look at the tariff structure. It is being done in different countries. In Vietnam, it is being done. The government will say, don't charge this more than this amount of money in certain areas. In certain areas, yes, you can afford to charge a particular amount of money because they can afford it. It becomes what I call the tariff structure. Then the off-takers as well. If, of course, I want to invest in water, say in FCT Abuja, I would like to know how many consumers am I going to get? Who are the off-takers? Who will guarantee that? I'm not the one to guarantee. There must be that input from the government and from others to say, we'll have 1 million consumers, we'll have 10 million consumers, but here are what I would call tariff structures that you'll be able to follow. The other one is risk allocation. Risk allocation. Who carries certain risk? Our president is doing very well with the renewed hope agenda and transformation and everything he puts in when it comes to prosperity for all. But now, if he leaves office tomorrow and somebody else comes in, and there is no guarantee that you have invested in that particular project, water, that it will continue, I'll call it sovereign risk. Until we're able to sit down and look at it holistically in a sustainable manner, in a way of liberalizing and transforming the sector for all to have access to water and sanitation, it will still become extremely very difficult. Of course, I don't expect the government to carry what I call technology and innovation risk. If I'm bringing in a technology, I should be able to guarantee that this will be there for the next 40 years or 50 years or 30 years. And where we need improvement, we can always be improving on those technologies. Again, there is no investment in the water sector period cannot be anything less than 15 years or 20 years. So we need to plan for that, because that investment horizon is also another difficult issues that we have. We have a couple of other barriers, including regulators. Who are the regulators that will be able to say, okay, this private sector is doing it very well, or the government should shift a little bit? If they are private sector, if there are regulators that are still under the ministry or the government, it still becomes very difficult. Why am I saying this? Even where a private sector is doing very well or the investor is doing very well, they can decide to say, no, just don't give that report because we want to take him out. So we need independent regulators to come in to see how they can also support the sector. And that regulatory framework or weakness is also another challenge that the private sector is having, that is making it difficult for them to come into the washing sector. Then the CSOs and development partners' dominance, which is very good, they have done very well. But it is time for the government to allow them to do certain job. The gap we have in the sector, they will not be able to fill it up. Right now, we need about $114 billion in every year globally to be able to deal with the challenges that we have. It cannot come from development partners. It cannot come from CSOs. It has to come from the private sector. And until we sit down to understand that these are the challenges we're having, it becomes a difficult issue. Political interference is another weakness as well that we are seeing. Political interference, like I said about sovereign risk, that the government should be able to deal with. So in as much as the government will say, private sector come to invest, without these few points or few areas that I have mentioned in terms of the barriers, it will still be difficult. The issue is not the capital. The issue is not the institutional, is not the technology. The issue is not even the political will from the side of the government. The major problem is the institutional framework that has a lot to do with how do we structure the deal that everybody is happy with. That is what we have as a gap that is making it very difficult for the private sector to come in.
Look at the investors that see sanitation and water as a social service rather than an opportunity. How can their mindset be changed?
The mindset is the multi-stakeholders collaboration and partnership. Is where private sector coming onto the table, development partners coming onto the table, the government coming onto the table, the CSOs coming onto the table. But it needs a coordinating platform. And that is what OPS Watch is all about. OPS Watch, the organized private sector in water, sanitation, and hygiene, recently, we launched what we call the private sector engagement platform. It's a global platform that can bring people together to discuss some of these issues. where we can be sitting down with the government in any country to say to them, can you consider what is happening in the energy sector in your country? Can you look at what is happening in the telecom sector in your country? Look at the housing, look at the medical or the health sector. What do you do about water sector? They will begin to shift their mindsets. We can also approach in that same platform as well, development partners. We appreciate what you are doing, but you should also be advocating sincerely for private sector investment because you know these challenges are huge and it's affecting everyone. Look at every corner in Nigeria. We don't have access to when you open your tap, you have good water, quality water meter that you can pay. Yes, in Lagos State, some parts of Kano we have, but in other states in Nigeria, it is difficult. Everybody is just depending on their boreholes, and which is not sustainable, and it's not something that is good for Nigeria as a whole. So those are the things that we need to do. We need to also approach the CSOs. You can't keep on asking the government to increase their budget. And that is the only thing you talk about. You should be able to start looking at other sectors, how they have transformed. We should have honest discussions if we really want to transform the sector. The reality of it all is that we are not honest. People will say private sector will increase tariffs. They don't do that if they don't, they have to sit down with the government. They cannot do that on their own. So the major challenge that we have is that we don't have a platform where we can bring people, all the stakeholders together to be able to discuss this. And OPS Watch, PSEP, the private sector engagement platform, is that platform where we'll be able to have access to the government. We have access to different governments in here in Africa, and at the same time, we have access to development partners, World Bank, UNICEF, WaterAid, to say to them, how do we move this sector forward? We can't keep on having workshops, keep on saying the same thing every year. We are not transforming the sector, and it's affecting the economy, it's affecting our health, it's affecting others. The idea is to have honest discussion, and it has to be driven by a platform, a coordinating platform that understands the challenges I have just mentioned.
The Constitution, the framework, that was the last question you responded to. You think that would solve some of the challenges, that this sector is experiencing? How can these, what are the processes to follow to achieve this thing you've just said?
The process is very simple. What we are doing now is we are approaching the government. I'm also glad that I'm a member of the steering committee that was put up by the former president, chaired by the vice president then, and is still in place, to use that platform to plead with the government to say, let us have a discussion. In case you do not understand, you've done very well in energy, telecom, and so on. But what is left now is water, which is most important. After we have that discussion with the government, even at the ministerial level, I work very closely with the Honorable Minister of Water Resources and so on. What do we do? Here are the points. Here are the private sector that are willing to come in, or the investors, but here are their barriers. Then, of course, to approach those investors that are already coming to us and say, we are willing. I have an investor coming from Vietnam because they have done it very well in Vietnam. They say, we can invest in Nigeria and the rest of Africa. But here are the barriers as well that we're going to face. We need an institutional framework that is strengthened. We need system that is strengthened. So these are the things that we are approaching the government to say, let's do this, and here are the benefits. Benefits to you as government, not only because you have transformed the sector, but there might be also revenue that you can have access to. Because investor, can come in and say, okay, government can have equity because they are giving you the land, or they are giving you concession for 35 years. This is what gets to the government. The CSOs, here are your responsibilities. You cannot keep on saying increase budget, because other ministries as well are also saying the same thing. Health is asking, can we increase budget? Food security, agriculture is asking, can we increase the budget? That is not the level of advocacy that we need in the water sector now. We need advocacy to say we need a genuine private sector to come in. So it is a step-by-step issue, but there must be that political will. But I think if you ask me, there are those political wills that we have at the moment. Mr. President has been, doing very well. But it's just formalizing it, formulating it in such a way that the private sector will see that they are bankable. And that is what we are doing as OPS Watch and PSEP at the moment. And it's yielding results. I was in Cape Town a couple of weeks ago to also address some of these issues, and I can see that they are already happening in Senegal. Senegal, they have gone very far. Rwanda, gone very far. Even Namibia, also gone very far. In the case of Namibia, very interesting. People do not understand that even water reuse, in terms of sewage water that you can retreat, that can actually have value. In Rwanda, since 1968, they actually have a system, a plant where they collect all the sewage from different places, retreat the water, and the water is drinkable to the level that it can actually go to industries. Industries can be using them. In South Africa, where they have industrial clusters, industries being there, instead of now the industries wasting the sewage or sending them out, they collect them within that cluster, retreat it to the level that they can reuse them and now send them back. But all these things are possible when we sit down to talk either to the cluster or to the government and to the regulators to say that all these things can be done, and here are the standards that are needed, and here are the standards that might even be above the standards that are needed. So it's all about sitting down to discuss. But I'm happy that many countries, Uganda is also doing the same thing. Kenya is coming on board, but we are still talking to other African countries to see water not just as a social, but as an economic good that can transform the economy and different sectors of the economy.
Okay, now it's important rather that you mention this. I'm curious to know, because rural communities suffer the most, from poor water and sanitation facilities. How can this private sector or investors rather redirect, their aim? We talk about development and sensitization to these rural areas.
Thank you so much. Precisely March 31st this year, just like I think a couple of 2 months ago, OPS Watch, in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation and Nestle funded this project with the support of OPS Watch, realized that there is so much importance that we should put to water quality, guidance in terms of people understanding what water quality is. So people do not think that just any water you drink is okay, that when water is clear, the water is clean. So we actually came up with what I would call the water quality handbook that was launched on that day. Why did we do that? Mostly for the communities, because Nestle, they were kind enough to provide for 24 communities clean water, treatment plants everywhere to different communities in their catchment areas of Abaji and Agbara. Those two catchment areas, 16 in Abaji, 8 in Agbara. But now, they now went into advocacy for water quality in terms of teaching people what water quality is, why they should drink this water. If they take water, if the water is not to this standard, should they boil the water preliminary, and so on and so forth. That is the elementary part of what we are even doing. But that is donor, that is just donating to them in terms of supporting CSR, or what I would call water stewardship program that we're also promoting, and so on. However, if we have clear tariff structure to say in Nigeria, for example, people in Maitama, in Abuja, people in Wuse, people in Jabi area will pay 2,000 naira a month for so much, number of liters of water a month. Now, of course, we know that those people can afford it, or certain industries in certain areas should pay this amount of money per liter or per kiloliter a day, and so on. We'll be able to say, based on that, we can reform the community tariff structure that they probably pay nothing or just a little bit, just for them to also understand that we need small amount of money to maintain and operate that. So it's about sitting down with the government again to have a tariff structure that benefits the communities. But of course, what we have also promoted will be, has been to allow the communities, or rather the private sector that are using some communities as, communities that are hosting for their businesses, to also support them with some project. So we have CSR component that can actually bridge those areas where we have the real investment, where the private sector can also come in. The same thing that you have in the urban area, we can also provide them in the communities. But it depends on what they are making from the urban areas. They will not be able to know what they can give out to the communities in terms of helping them. Yes, I understand the communities are feeling this so much. Some of them have to travel like 2 kilometers every day to go and fetch the water. And the water they are fetching might be water that will not be drinkable. Of course, they will not be drinkable. We have a lot of sewage going into that particular river or stream where they're taking water from. And when you see some of these things, it's not really something that the government should be proud of, or even for us as private sector should be proud of. But of course, on our own side, we do not have what it takes. It's the government that still holds everything that will say, come in and we'll get it done. But the challenges are huge. And it's not just only within the communities. Even in the urban areas, open defecation is not just for the communities. You go to different areas, even in Maitama areas, Asokoro areas, you see people defecating in the open because there are no private, public, toilets in those areas. And at the same time, even in the sanitation sector, we have $26 billion waiting for people to harness from now to the year 2030. But people are not looking into that because there is no that flexibility, there is no that institutional framework that allows people to say, that allow people to come in and harness those opportunities. So communities have issues. But at the end of the day, it still depends on the multi-stakeholders partnership to be able to look into those areas and see how we can support. But for now, private sector, they're doing their bit in terms of CSR. Developing partners as well are doing their bits in terms of those rural areas and the CSOs. But that, at the end of the day, has not been able to solve those problems.
I like the fact that you just said this now, they're doing their bits, the private investors, and you also mentioned Nestle, also joining the OPS, to do other stuff, These are beautiful things, right? But the question I have now is, what assurances do private investors need before committing their resources to wash projects in Nigeria?
Very easy assurances. Break those barriers. Break the barriers. Look at those risks that they are talking about. Let us have honest discussions. Let us stop saying private sector coming. Let us sit down and discuss what they need. Look at the risk. Look at the tariff structure that they want to propose. See how you can say, shift a little bit to this side, shift a little bit to this side. They have the technology, they have the capital. What they just need, just those institutional framework, regulatory framework, legal framework that will be sustainable for at least 20 years for them investing, because you don't invest in water for 2 or 3 years and pull out. It's not possible. Look at all the risk factors that I mentioned earlier on. If we are able to do that, there are many people who are willing to invest. The same thing applied in the telecom sector. I must say in the 1990s, if you remember Nitel, you might be dialing a number, your neighbor very close to you, you will not get through. But when they realized the importance of communication, they now liberalized that sector, not just only in Nigeria, but in the rest of Africa. And you can see today we have MTN. Not that MTN is providing the services, or Airtel or Glo, they are also creating jobs and so on. And you can see the level of technology that we are putting in the telecom sector. And I can assure you, people can pay, just like we are worried about people in the communities. Those communities, they also have access to telephones and they recharge their phone. I can assure you that some people might be paying more than 5,000 naira every month to recharge, or spending more than 5,000 every month to recharge their phone and so on. And some people even replace their phones every 6 months or 1 year. 1 or 2 things, will happen, or their screen is broken. They still have to go and fix it because they understand that they need that communication. But I'm telling you now that somebody can do without even energy, power for 1 week, communication for 1 week, but you cannot deal with water for a week. And it's still that same water that we are neglecting. Not that we are neglecting it in any form. Is because of the ignorance, either from the side of the government, private sector having their own issues, development partners thinking that they can do it on their own, and government allowing it and feeling that anything, let us go to Water Aid, let us go to UNICEF or World Bank. It does not still solve those problems. So the major issue now, break those barriers. The private sector will come in and invest.
Okay, so now let's look at communities. I don't know if I should even mention the government. I know these are the challenges, but I want us to just see how to solve these once and for all, if possible. There are times that private sectors, private investors would want to invest, would want to support communities. But sometimes you see community members being a stumbling block to their own good. They will say, no, unless you pay certain amounts, we will not allow you to access our communities and carry out this work. And sometimes you see community leaders, being a barrier, saying you have to pay homage to this, to that, do this, do that. How can this be managed? Is it what the government, how really can this be managed?
Yes. This is a very brilliant and very important question because penetration is also a difficult aspect when it comes to business. It's not only in the washing sector. I'm sure when the energy sector, when even the telecom sector, when NTN came to Nigeria, or Airtel and so on, or Vodacom in some parts of Africa, there were those apprehensions in terms of, okay, who are they? They want to build these their towers or whatever. They want to do this, whose land are they going to use, and so on. It's all about sensitization. And it will even be easier for water and sanitation because maybe then for telecom, some of the communities did not even need those, maybe they didn't know then how much they would need those communication gadgets or whatever. But water is something that everybody needs, so they know that this is important. But of course, we can still face those challenges. You want to do project anywhere in the community, they will ask you for this, they will ask you for that. But that is even the work and the job of the local government, and at the same time, the job and the responsibility of some CSOs. They should focus in those areas. They should not focus on increased budget, increased budget, increased budget. I think that we have gotten to that ceiling of government cannot increase budget. Let's take it home. So it's about them going now to let the people, the communities, to understand that you need water to survive. You need water to stay healthy. You need water for your agricultural activities. You need water for different things. And we have private sector who will be coming in to do A, B, C, D, not just for free, but you might be paying little amount of money, even if it's 500 naira or 1,000 naira a month, because they have treated the water. Water that is in the river or sea or stream might be free. But when you have applied technologies, innovations in treating that water, somebody would like to take his money back within a period of time. They will understand, just like how they have understood for the energy, just like how they have understood for the telecom sector and the health sector, and so on and so forth. They will understand, but it is still for the local government, representing the government, and the CSOs advocating for this and sensitizing the communities.
Okay, now let's talk about some communities that are still affected by, poor water, contaminated water. We have regions like the Ogoni, the Niger Delta, that are still struggling with clean water, because of the oil spillage and what have you. How can people of that region get justice in quotes, for clean water and sanitation, looking at the harmfulness of such situations?
Yeah, I think that's a very sad one. I watched a clip of the level of pollution in one or two parts of Niger Delta regions, and that wasn't very good in any form. And again, it boils down to the communities understanding the cost of their inactions to accept that some of these things are wrong. There are some communities, community leaders in those areas, either they collect enough money and they feel it is okay, and it affects them at the end of the day, not only their health, even their aquatic life. Remember, when you have oil on the surface of the water or river or sea, it does not allow the penetration of solar or sun into that this as well. So you see once in a while, you see the fish that dead hanging on the surface of the water. And again, it becomes very difficult for people to have access to fresh water. In some areas, the oil producing companies like Shell, they have done well maybe to provide some water schemes, but most times they are not sustainable. I think it's the government to look beyond the revenue they are generating through the partnership with those oil producing companies and start looking at the lives of the people that where those things are being affected. And it is again what we are doing at the moment, talking to the government to say, I understand that you are making your revenue is coming from this area. Oil producing in a company, whether it's a Seplat or Shell or Mobil or whatever, you are doing this. You cannot do this in any part of the world. And you cannot come to Nigeria and keep on doing this. And the CSOs as well, speaking out loudly. The problem again is the level of corruption in some areas, in some sectors, in some areas, that makes it difficult for us to even say it the way they are or the way it is. So we need to start discussing that because many people are dying because of the hydrocarbon contamination of water in those areas. It is very bad, extremely bad, and it's something that the government should start looking into as soon as possible. Can it be solved? Yes. But again, we need to sit down. Where the problems have been, we've not had a platform that brings people together. Maybe I would say Shell, Mobil, or the oil producing company in Nigeria Delta. We want to have a small workshop. We bring in the government, we bring in the community leaders, we bring in the people, the communities themselves, because the leaders might to an extent be compromised to an extent, not all of them. We bring in the CSOs, we bring in development partners. Let us sit down and discuss this.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Nick Igwe, for joining us this morning and sharing your thoughts with us. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me again.
All right, so we'll go on a short break. Do stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
So we had a very interesting conversation recently regarding the climate and change and farmers' message and how they read it and help others understand what is happening. We also learned that it's not just the farmers that learned about the climate change. The sailors, the people working on the sea, also learn about the climate change. And trust me, you too can have one or two to learn about climate change. Please stay with us to watch this interview. Thank you for still staying with us. We have our first conversation this morning, which I'll be looking into right about now. Of course, on standby, we have our guest, Benjamin Fiafo, who is Just Communication, head of Just Communication Farm Radio International. We shall be looking at climate change. Climate is sending message, farmers are reading it. A very unique, topic. Of course, this conversation is going to really enlighten you and help you understand. Hello, Benjamin. Good morning and welcome to New Day.
Good morning, and good morning to all your listeners and audience this morning.
Okay, so what are those common signs, that we can see and know that climate change is already affecting communication in the farming system?
Thank you very much. So I will say that climate change is really communicating to all of us, farmers also, because we see climate change in the weather pattern. That's the first one. Again, we also see climate change in the dry spells that usually happen during the course of the year. We also see climate change in the flood, the excessive heat waves that happens, and also the increasing pests and disease outbreaks. All these are signs that are coming to tell farmers that there is climate change. And ultimately, food insecurity is also one of the things that help us to understand that there is climate change.
All right, now the topic is very unique. You understand, you talked about climate change, the science, and the farmers reading it. Should we be concerned, or is it just a normal season of rain, no rain, the weather and what have you? Is there any area that citizens should be concerned regarding climate change?
Yes, I would say that all of us have to be concerned across the whole of Africa, especially because of where we find ourselves. We need to be concerned. About 70 to 80% of our farming activities are rain-fed. We depend on the rain to do everything. So if the rain fails in a particular season, it simply means that that particular season, all farmers will not have enough crops. They will not be able to manage their activities. So at the end of the year, they will not have any income to survive on. Aside that, in all our cities, as we speak now, there are communities that are flooded. We've just had some 1 week of rain, but communities are flooded. People cannot go out. So already there are challenges that are coming out that we all need to be concerned about. Beside the flooding, when it happens, it comes with all other challenges. We begin to see all kinds of diseases coming out. We begin to see all kinds of pests and diseases springing up, and this affects everyone. Drivers sometimes cannot go home because the road that they are using is flooded, and when it happens, you can't drive your car home. So it is a challenge for all of us, and when it comes to climate change, it is also visible to all of us. It is not something that is far-fetched. It is not a theory that we cannot understand. We see it every day.
Okay, so let's look at the challenges that smallholder farmers are experiencing, talking about droughts and flood, and of course, the changing of the weather. How bad is it affecting smallholder farmers?
Yes, I would say that the changing of weather is really affecting farmers because they are experiencing longer dry spell. usually when they farm, they expect that the rain will fall at various intervals. But usually the rain starts and then there is a dry spell when within, let's say, a month, there is no rain. And this usually affects the crop even more than anything. So when it comes to climate change, we are not even looking at the quantity of rain within the year, but we are looking at the intervals of this rain. And usually the climate change causes this rain to come at a time that we are not expecting it, or they come at a time that we don't need the rain. The same thing is that it makes rainfall unpredictable. It makes rainfall unpredictable because every farmer wants to know that, okay, in April, May, I need to plant my crops. But because of climate change, you cannot plant. You have to wait till the rain starts. So that is the kind of challenge that farmers especially face. Sometimes at the time that they are harvesting and they need the sun, that is when you see rain falling excessively. And this happens sometimes between October and December, when everybody is expecting that, oh, we will have enough heat to allow my crop to dry well so that I can harvest. This is also one challenge. The issue of flood, even rice farmers don't need too much water. So that is also another challenge when the flood is too much and it covers the crops, they cannot get the needed yield that they want. These changes affect planting season. It also affects crop yield, and it also affects livestock production, and ultimately it affects food security. So we believe that farmers are among the group that actually face one of the biggest challenges when it comes to climate change. Farmers are the first to notice these changes, and they also see this within their environment first, because they wake up and where they work is the farm. Unlike me and you, where we go to an office, we are in an air-conditioned room, we will not experience the kind of heat that they experience. So these are things that I see happening to farmers day in and day out.
Okay, let's talk about farmers reading the signs, the messages from the climate change. How does that work? Because I was also curious to really understand and speak to you. Can you just be the eyes and ears of the farmers now as a representative? Can you tell us how farmers hear the messages from the climate change that most of us don't read? Benjamin, are you with us?
Yes, sorry. Yes, my network went off briefly, but so if you can please ask the question again.
Okay, so I was asking, according to the topic, it says that the climate change, farmers are seeing the messages and they are reading it. So I'm asking, as a representative from the farmers, right, based on your experience and you have more knowledge on this, how do farmers actually see these messages and read them? Of course, most of us that are not into farming may not also understand this message or even see it in the first place. Can you help us to understand how the farmers do that?
Thank you. So I will go back to the point that I made at the beginning, that climate is communicating to the farmer. So the farmer, the communication comes in a form of the things that happen within the year. When at the beginning of the season, I am a farmer and I'm expecting that the rain will come in April. If the rain delays in April, what the climate is communicating to me is that there is a challenge. So that is how the climate communicates with farmers. It is not like it is announcing or speaking, but they see it in the form of patterns. They see it in a form of things that are happening right before them. So I'll go back to the things that I've mentioned. When they want to see how climate is communicating with them, they will see it in the dry spell, that the rains are not coming at the time that they need it, and it communicates to them that they need to do something immediately. It communicates to them that now they need to change the kind of crop that they plant, or they need to plant crop at a different time. Again, the climate speak to them that okay, there will be a dry spell, or you need to plant early, so they will go for early maturing crops. So what happens is that the climate communicates to them the challenge, and the farmers are adapting and responding. The farmers are adapting and responding. So the term here is the climate is communicating to farmers, and farmers are reading it. How are they reading it? They read it through the adaptation and the adoption of new climate smart strategies. The climate smart strategies, some of them include the use of early maturing seed that allow them to have their yield far earlier than expected. Again, they also respond by planting disease-resistant seeds. So based on that, they are able to also withstand some of the diseases that the climate communicates to them. Again, when it comes to their livestock, now farmers now are learning how to cut fodder and keep them, and when there is no feed, they can now feed their livestock with them. So the climate is communicating the challenge to farmers, and farmers are responding by doing things that will allow them to withstand the climate. As we know now, a lot of farmers are now using solar irrigation. Some are also using a number of pumps and other irrigation facilities so that they can plant all year round. Because if they have to depend on the usual rain-fed agriculture, there will be food insecurity everywhere. So I would say that yes, the climate is actually speaking to farmers. It is speaking to them every day. They see what is happening every time, and they are also responding by doing things that will help them to adapt so that they will be able to manage the situation.
All right, so let's look at the government and their policies and interventions. Are they adequate, to support farmers facing related risks regarding the climate?
I'll start with research and NGOs. The researchers and NGOs, yes, they have come out with a number of adaptation strategies. They've come up with a lot of adaptation practices that farmers are currently using to withstand the climate change. Some of them, as I mentioned, include the early maturing seeds. Others also include the use of land preparation method. The use of land preparation method that allow them to be able to do mulching, have enough water on the ground when even there is a dry spell. There is also various methodology that the farmers are taking through that allow them to learn how to manage pests and diseases. All these are things that I think are really helping our farmers to do well as they continue their farming activities.
So let's look at the role of technology and, of course, smart farming. How can it help farmers, to manage the challenges of climate change?
Yes, one of the things that the farmers need from government is the area of irrigation. Here, a lot of the farmers are not having access to irrigation. The cost of irrigation is very high. The cost of input for irrigation is also very high. The farmers find it very difficult to have access to all this material. So it is becoming one of the biggest challenge for farmers. Again, when it comes to flood, how to manage flood is also another strategy on its own. And farmers really struggle to manage flood. And this is something that we think farmers will need to do. So it is very important that government comes in to support farmers to be able to manage the flood.
All right, so if you were to suggest or advise the government and fellow farmers, what message would you have for them? Okay.
My message to farmers is that climate change is real. They have seen everything about climate change, and it is something that is really affecting what they are doing every time. And it is important that they accept that this is what is happening when it comes to climate change, and they need to begin to learn.
All right.
They need to learn how to manage climate change, because climate change is real. And the only way that we can do is, one, we need to do everything possible to contain the challenges that we see every day. As a farmer, when you see pests and diseases, don't panic, call your extension officer, they will show you what to do. When the rains are not coming at the time that you are expecting the rain, just listen to, now we have radio stations across Nigeria that are working with NIMET. NIMET provide seasonal weather outlook. Let's listen to the seasonal weather outlook. They interpret it in a way that, as a farmer, you understand when you need to cultivate, when you need to clear your land, when you need to plant. They will tell you if there's going to be a dry spell. They will ask you to wait. They will also ask you to plant early maturing or late maturing seed. So farmers listen to radio. There are other sources of weather information. Get in touch, and I'm sure we'll be able to link you to all.
All right, so thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so thank you so much. But just in a few seconds, let me just get your parting shot and we'll call it a day.
You want to? Please, can you repeat the question again?
A parting shot, a wrap up from you.
All right, thank you. Yes, I like the theme for this morning's discussion. The theme that climate is communicating with farmers and farmers are reading it. It is really true, and I believe that all farmers are expecting that there will be some changes in the climate every time. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Benjamin Fiafo. Thank you for being part of the program this morning and for joining us. It's been an amazing time to learn one or two about the climate and the messages they send, not just to the farmers, but also to the sea lords. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you this morning.
Thank you.
All right, so
every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
All right, I believe you enjoyed that conversation. We go straight to some of the conversations we had this week that you may have missed out due to some activities you engaged in. Monday, we talked about the governors or emperors, abuse of powers and governance structure of Nigeria. And our guest for that conversation was Ejike Okpa. He helped us to understand some of the challenges and, of course, the prospects in governance. And then still on Monday, we discussed challenges of screenwriters and content creators in Nigeria with Effiong Akpan. Please take a watch.
Now, one of the things you also mentioned is the issue of funding. You mentioned it while you were speaking earlier. And how difficult is it to build a sustainable career solely from screenwriting and content creation? And what would you say are those barriers that Nigerian creators face compared to other creators in other markets?
Well, the lack of funding is a global thing. I mean, if you look at the global film industry, funding has, dried up, let me put it that way. But it is probably worst in Nigeria, where people see entertainment as a pastime, not a career thing. And a lot of people a lot of talents, let me use the word talent, have come into the industry not to sustain the industry, but to sustain themselves and walk away. And when that happens, there is no established, driven ethos to enable outsiders who probably have the funding to fund the industry. Again, like I said, when people keep on watching the same movies and they don't think such movies are going in depth to discussing societal problems, offering solutions, leaving legacies, they might not be interested. Again, the screenwriter doesn't pay himself, but these days he could pay himself because of digital technology. He could pay himself by, cranking something out, using AI to, generate videos and probably earn some, following or, and make some money. But going back to the traditional filmmaking practice, the screenwriter is not in the position to fund himself. Yes, if you consider cinematography as it used to be practiced, if you consider digital camera usage as it were in the 90s to 2000s, the screenwriter is in no position to fund himself because he probably, like I said, is not well positioned to fund himself in terms of money. So bottom line is that if the producer does not have the money, how will the producer be funded? Now, going back to content as a video, you might have the idea, but since you don't have the tools, you cannot do anything about what you want to put out. So these challenges for the screenwriter are enormous. One, you might be misunderstood as to what you put out. Two, you don't have the funding. So there is this challenge that if you don't have the funding to fund yourself as a screenwriter, how would you now put out what people desire or what statement you want to make online, except only depend on the producer and the sometimes director? So do you have the funding? No. If you don't have the funding as a writer, basically you're on your own. And most of the time the writer is on his own. And the more reason why in America they have strong guilds, across the industry where writers could be taken care of. So in terms of, connections, networking, in terms of funding per se. Some people even receive residual income based on the work they've done. In Nigeria, there is no provision for the screenwriter to earn residual income from a movie because, I mean, one, you're not well paid. Somebody doesn't pays you peanuts and takes away all the credit. Sometimes they won't even give you credit. So the screenwriter is between the devil and the deep blue sea as to how do I decide my destiny? How do I go about surviving as a screenwriter? Not to talk of becoming a content creator. So if you cannot move from a well-funded screenwriter from the sources that are supposed to come to you, how do you now become a good content creator? So you could rely on on AI, or you could just rely on holding a phone camera, and filming whatever comes to mind. A lot of people have done that and have succeeded. As you see a lot of things on social media, content creators using phone to skin to film 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and they're doing well. Perhaps I heard they're doing a show on YouTube. YouTube pay them, but I'm not too sure they're doing well. So as a screenwriter, going back to the basic storytelling necessity, as a screenwriter, you cannot, without funding, become a content creator per se. And as a content creator, if you don't have money to fund your production, how do you now put out what people need to watch? So if you go back, you keep emphasizing the need to the transition from screenwriting or screenwriter to content producer. These are the headaches. Again, if you are somebody who likes to write deep, and probably you are in your 50s, 40s to 50s to 60s, and you cannot embrace the current trend of anything goes, you are in quagmire. You are in a situation where you cannot do well because you're waiting for the big one, the deep one, the legacy stories. And the legacy stories are not coming forth anymore because those legacy stories need funding, big funding. Recently, the federal government, launched a fund, creative industry funding for a lot of people. And I ended up having a lot of arguments about what do we put out as the people so that we get funding. And I always referring to Funke Akindele. Why is she doing well? Why is Funke Akindele doing well, if I may say, use the word doing well in quotes? Because she was able to carve out a niche for herself, a niche production, meaning for herself, a niche that, starting from comedy, which everybody became, crazy about, because everybody is crazy about comedy in Nigeria. Comedy is not the only genre in the whole wide world. There are so many, but there are hybrid genres too. So she started with comedy, but she's been able to use the comedy itself to move to another kind of niche, which has given her a reputation, a brand. So again, when you're screenwriting, when you're a storyteller, what brand are you projecting? What are you known for? Because if you're known for what you're projecting, you probably will have some people are interested in what you're doing. So people probably do not understand that storytelling also has branding, can also become a brand asset in the sense that the particular story you tell becomes an investable asset, an asset that can pull interest. It's just like selling a product. What are you selling? So as a screenwriter, you must be able to have your own niche, which you take. If you don't have a niche, you're just floating and telling any kind of story. You might end up not having patronage. Again, too, it's a dialectical thing. You might have a niche which is too legacy prone. It's not the usual, maybe pick up a bottle of beer, have a drink, and probably walk into a restroom and pee off, or have a stick of cigar. Something for the moment. Not for the moment. You might also end up not having patronage. So it's a very dicey situation for the screenwriter and the content creator, or screenwriter to become a screenwriter, move from screenwriting to content creation. It's very dicey now in Nigeria where funding is very, very dry. Let's put it that way. Funding is very, very dry. Again, because there is lack of ethical practices in industry. People don't understand that they have to first protect the industry before protecting their interests. And so they mix up personal or individual interests against the industrial interests. That means that everybody is on his own, taking care of himself. So if everybody is on his own and taking care of himself, perhaps just like Funke Akindele has done. You know, how do you now get funding in a pool, in collaboration for people to now say, okay, I can put 1 billion naira. So it's a very nice situation for the screenwriter who probably wants to transit to becoming a content creator.
Now, Mr. Akpan, listening to you speak, you've mentioned about the quality of what is being put out there, about looking at different genres and all of that. But I'd like to ask you, do you think that the audience and what they prefer determines the kind of content that we see most of the time? Because you mentioned comedy and how everybody loves comedy, but that's not the only genre. But what about the situation whereby everybody loves to see comedy, and so everybody is doing comedy because that's what people want? How would you say that the audience influences majority of what screenwriters put out there, and focus on one particular thing as opposed to trying other genres?
I want to agree with you. I want to agree with you in the first instance that audience determine what we have to put out for in the industry. Because if you go to the market and you want to buy tomato, nobody can force you to buy pepper. But there is this huge misconception about what story to tell in Nollywood. That means, like somebody said, somebody committed an unforgivable sin by coming from the UK to tell Nigerians that, or Nigerian practitioners that, look, comedy is the only thing that can sell. No, comedy is not the only thing that can sell. Comedy itself can be black comedy. Comedy itself can become, can drive a tragedy story, tragic comedy. But the way Nigerians offer comedy is trash. Let anybody criticize me, let anybody crucify me. It is pure trash. Trash in the sense that some comedies do not make sense. Somebody made, there's a comedy show, a comedy movie that was produced some time ago. I forgot it's an Igbo thing. It shows the coming of age. It showed the coming of age of a young lady from ENUGU or whatever. I can't remember. I've forgotten the title. So, if we take Eddie Murphy's comedy in America, take Funke Akindele's comedy here in Nigeria, take some comedies that probably have made marked as content on social media. Ask yourself, what really defines this comedy production? What really defines them? In the case of Nigeria, we think that comedy is about talking trash and making jest of, things that are supposed to be serious. Well, you could joke about serious things. You could
for the year. So for him and his staff, that's what they get. And then the rest goes to the various agencies of the state, or the ministries and the parastatals and the every other thing, they get that money. But that is only if you're running an agency government. But in Nigeria, it's not an agency government, it's a benevolent government. Because the benevolence in the sense is up to the governor, is up to the president. And that is why you have what you have. So the Nigerian people have to, and then Nigerians don't have issue elections. All the elections in Nigeria is basically about electing individuals. When you have issues in issues election, then what is on the ballot is how do you want to be governed? How much do you think your governor needs to be paid, or everybody else? Those are issues. You put it on the ballot. Nigeria hasn't gotten to that, and Nigeria is not likely to get to that. So the way the money is allocated, remember, it's allocation, it's not appropriation. If you understand budgetary system, those two words are very, very different. So Nigeria does allocation, and who does that allocation? The governor. And the governor and the chief, accountant general, commissioner for finance, and they decided. They never said, okay, we got the money, this is the date we get it. Most people don't even know when the money is allocated to the state, because the governors can go in and talk with banking officials and move that money, because Nigerian states don't have treasury. So it goes to a particular bank, and so sometimes they borrow money on that allocation. So the people don't know. But what Nigerian people can do is each state begin to demand. Governor, we want to know when the money was allocated, how much was allocated, and what bank is holding it. This is, if you want to talk about transparency, this is how you can ask, this start to be transparent. But now Nigerian government are not transparent. A governor can go to your village and say, oh, I'm giving you people this amount of money, and everybody start dancing. But nobody asks the governor, is that in the budget? The governors treat the money as if it's their personal thing. That's why when they build you a road or build you a school, everybody's thanking them. They are doing their job. They're doing their job. They're not doing you a favor. They're doing their job. But Nigerians make it look like the governors are doing them a favor because, what are the choices? How many people can oppose a governor in a state and live to tell about it? Because these people have absolute powers. So the allocation system needs to change, or the federal government to say every time they allocate people, they put it as a gazette, put it in the paper. This is how much money was sent to a state, and this is when it was sent, so that people can begin to see that and say and now ask the questions. But if Nigerians are afraid to ask questions, then part of this whole thing is people are going to be sensing you. They're going to sense, what are you going to do? If I slap you, what are your recourse? And if they know you're not going to do anything, they will slap you. But if they know if they slap you, there are consequences for bad behavior, then they will think twice about it. So the Nigerian governors don't think twice about anything they do. And they just do it. And you see that thing they put in the clause immunity, you cannot sue the governors. Again, Nigerians should challenge it. If the Nigerian Bar Association has any teeth, a whole lot of them go around with this, sign, senior advocate of Nigeria, which to me is more like senseless advocates of Nigeria. Because if they have that sign, and if that sign means anything, they should be fighting for the people. They should be the one engaging and suing these people in court and dragging it out. Well, they're the ones that are running around and, begging to have some things to do for the governors. So the point again is that democracy makes sense when the led are the ones telling the leaders, this is what we want. The classic example of leadership is the ability to influence with or without authority. So what the governors do, they use authority, they don't use influence. But if the people were to influence the governor or the governors to do something, that is leadership. Mr. Governor, this is what we want. And they do it. That's influence because you have no authority. And you can see that even from our homes. Most people forget that if you are able to influence your parents to do something, actually you're providing leadership. Because your parents can deny you your allowance, they can punish you. But if you're able to convince them to do it, that's why I say making your case. Making Your Case is a book written about persuasive arguments or persuasive ways to get things done. And that's leadership. When you go from the bottom to the top, not from the top to the bottom. The Nigerian system of leadership is waterfall. It comes down, and you could see with the villages, you could see with parents at home, they tell their kids what to do. They don't even listen to what their kids want to do. So you change all of that, and you start from home. Just like in 1789, John Adams said, the benefit of every society starts from the private families. It is there before somebody is your governor, before somebody is your chief of staff, it's somebody's brother or sister, and that's where this accountability and responsibility are nurtured. But if you're waiting for your governor to come and tell you or your president, then you have lost it. So you start from home to engage the authority figures.
That brings me to talk about the local governments and local government autonomy. I mean, constitutionally, they are seen as the third tier of government. However, there are still issues surrounding their autonomy, and it has remained structurally weak over time, despite repeated reforms and court pronouncements. In your opinion, why do you think that it is so?
Again, is the power of the purse. Is the of the purse. The Nigerian politics is basically about money. Who controls the purse? And that's why you could see the governors, when they get the money, they decide who is going to be the chairman of a local government. And everybody goes to them to go, what is that they call it, to go, who's that, get a form. If actually the local governments are autonomy, then they should be able to run for office regardless of what the governor says. But in the case of Nigeria, it's not the case because again, the governor wants to have this chain of pigs, and the governor is the head, is the pig at the head of the trough. So everybody has to fall in line and follow whatever he wants to see done. That's not good for democracy. So the federal government has to come in. I think they've made some reform to send the money to the local government. But then when it gets to the local government, how about the councillors of the local government? Are they even able to question, the chairman of that local government? I remember one time one of my brothers was a member of the local government, and he asked me, "Hey, bros, can I help? Can I invite their chairman to come to Dallas and see how to start?" I said, "No." I said, "There's no benefit for you guys to do that. I can come and talk to you guys about government structure, how to get mileage out of your budget, but it's just for you guys to spend whatever amount of money to come to Dallas." I said, "You wouldn't even understand it if I take you, to our county. Our county is called the local government, you know." But you could see how they are always gallivanting. They are always looking for a place to go. When what you need to do is look at the people that you have responsibility over and say, how can the resources I have be enough? Money is never enough. Money is never enough. It is the attitude to money that matters as opposed to how much money. The Nigerian situation is both the attitude is wrong and then they say, oh, there's not enough money. Even in America, we don't have enough money. But we have legislature and we have legislation, we have ways we can stretch the public money to get more mileage out of it. And that is through bond elections. When we do certain projects, we look at revenue projects as opposed to general projects. When you do your streets, it's usually very general bond. When you do hotels, anything that's going to bring revenue, it is revenue bond and is separate from the state budget. So what is his name, Pitamba is doing in ENUGU is funding that in out of state budget. If he was in America, it would be funded out of revenue bond, separate from the state budget. So when you dip your hand into that pot of money and you make no separation, then everything else suffers. So you start spending money or you start borrowing money on behalf of the state, and the state don't know it. Let me tell you something. Some years ago, I came back and I met Eugene Odo. Eugene Odo was the Speaker of the House during was it Chime? Is it Chime or Ugwani? One of those, but it's Eugene Odo. And I was asking him, I said, hey, since you are the speaker, do they have a mandatory allocation every year that they have to save certain amount of money from the state budget? And he looked at me and said, what does that mean? I said, do you have a revenue? Do you have a rainy day fund? Do you have a set aside? Because if you write into the law that every year the state budget has to 3% of it, or the consumer price index number has to be saved. I said, by now, Enugu State or any one of those states, let's say, for instance, I gave you a number of $140 billion. Let's say the Igbo states had such a law and they have said, hey, we would have saved 3% of that amount of money. Yeah, that would have been something like almost $5 billion you will have. And you could leverage that money all day long. It becomes a revolving money. It sits in a particular account. You have banks to bid on hosting that money, and they will guarantee you that they will never lose the principal. And then you use that to keep attracting investment into your state. But they don't have it. So Eugene Odo now said to me, why should I save money? If I save money, somebody will come chop it. And I'm looking at him and say, sir, all you could have done is say, hey, EGK, can you come and testify? Can you write us a concept? Can you tell us the benefit of this? But he was so dismissive I just laughed at him. I said, the reason I came to see you is because of my younger brother who wanted to come and, said to come and see you. I have nothing to come and see you for because, there's nothing.
It's in flux, always in flux.
Right.
There are influences here and there. When you talk about culture, it's about everything about one's life or the life of a community, the way they think, their philosophy of life, their beliefs, the food they eat, and their language too, So all these things, they kind of, change with time, Like, let's take, for instance, the English language. Do you know that most of the words in English are borrowed from places? We even have Igbo words borrowed by the English. Yes. For instance, the word okra.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okra. Because it is the Igbo slave that took it to America. That was how the world came to know about okra. They call it okra. There are so many others from other languages also. So this is one example. So what I'm trying to say in effect is that culture is not stagnant. So based on your question about these changes, time have changed a lot. I was talking to because I interviewed a lot of cultural enthusiasts and musicians, in my days as a broadcaster in Europe. So I remember an interview with Hugh Masekela, the South African, well-renowned jazz musician, who worked a lot during the apartheid to, expose the problems of South Africa to the world. And I spoke with him, and indeed what brought the discussion about African culture and things was, when we talked about the classification of music, genres, he said to me that I don't believe in genres, that he took up from Miles Davis, who told him to hell with genres. He said when he was playing jazz, not much was going on. And when he moved to play the modern jazz and did so much songs that are more modern, that he made a lot of money from that than jazz. So which means that whatever you do, people will always find something to complain about. So he said that African culture should not be seen as something that is stagnant with the medieval, ways that things were being done. After all, the white man has been, wearing loincloths in the past, and they evolved to what they are today over time. So what you see among them is not what they were originally. So why should we be stuck with, I hope this kind
Sure.
of...
Sure. I get that. It's giving fluid.
Yeah.
It can't just be stagnant with a particular idea.
Yeah. Take, for instance, the Nigerian music, the Afrobeat.
Yeah.
You can see the kind of blend it's taken. Somebody sings in pidgin and adds Yoruba and Igbo and English, and everything is just going like that. That's the in thing now.
The dynamics.
That's the dynamics, and it doesn't matter. And if you go anywhere in the world, I'm a witness. I've been hanging out with with a lot of Europeans, and I've traveled around Europe a lot. So you come to a place, you start hearing typical Afrobeat songs, and you see young people, boys and girls, Europeans, singing along with it, So we have created an entirely new culture through this process of, cultural, what do you call it, advancement, that is going away from the old, style to creating new style.
Talking about new style, let's talk about the diaspora. Okay. Still on culture. How important is cultural identity, in place of maintaining strong connections, between diasporas, communities, and their homeland?
Yeah, I think this is something that comes natural with every African in the diaspora. Of course, there could be some some people who might not, agree with this or want to identify, because some people naturally have identity crisis. But majority of Africans in the diaspora, they want to be Africans. That's all they want to be. They dress African, whenever it's possible. Like during the summer, you see people change immediately. They change to their African attires, proudly, with the beads, with the bracelets,
the fabrics, the different
fabrics,
attires,
walking boldly, and people admire them,
Yeah.
So this is the thing, because they miss home and they use every opportunity to get connected with home by their attitude, by their actions. So every community has got their own organizations, and they have their activities, they have their festivals. During summer, they organize picnics, they play drum, they dance, the children pick up from there, to know who they
How
are.
they feel of what they are.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, for instance, I've worked in the area of social integration and then diversity, using both sports and media and cultural activities, music and broadcasting and so on. So it just mixed up. I use all these tools to work in this area. So I have practical experience about how the Africans feel, how they will want to express their feelings. For instance, I started a program on radio to train foreigners in Finland to make radio programs in their languages.
Oh,
yes,
that's cool.
Yeah, and then the Ministry of Education and Culture, they were so excited about this concept when I sent the
Proposal to them.
proposal for it. They were like, wow, this is good, because my argument was that this will help a lot of people, because there are older people, like refugees, old men and women who left their home. People who work in the farms and take care of camels and and cows and all that, and they found themselves in a flat. It's like a prison. They don't, the life they are used to. Somebody in his 80s, 70s, 60s, they can't see it anymore. The grandchildren run around and come home and speak strange languages,
Yeah, yeah.
So they're kind of totally, disenfranchised, society, totally
Of the
socially
mother tongue.
removed from the society. So my idea was that train some of their people, let's say Somalians, for instance, a Somali-speaking person, train the person to make programs, talk about home, bring back those nostalgic things, play their music, and you find these people smiling because they feel like this is their thing.
Yeah.
And then again, the other part was that all the other government efforts to help, like social services and all
Yes,
that, go to
that
those
channel will be
offices,
used.
interview them, and then explain these things to the people so that they will know how to take care of things.
That was a very brilliant proposal you came up with
was,
there.
Yeah, and it lasted for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so the Africans, they will want to go far away from home, from at home. Yeah.
Let's talk about identity crisis. You made mention of that earlier on, and also it is important, that we also talk about that. Looking at how Nigeria is right now, the abductions, the killings, and the different things happening. In as much as people would say they are proud of being a Nigerian or Africa, but with the image that they are receiving in the diaspora, how would you, can you still blame someone that doesn't want to associate themselves with being in Nigeria? Looking at the image, we've heard of different occasions where people are turned down job offers because they found out that they're from Nigeria, because of the fear of either they're scammers or they have some sort of violent gene in them. Can one still identify with such image?
Yeah, this is quite an interesting question you just asked now. I tell you, as a matter of fact, the impact, the negative impact is huge. It's huge, but it takes, you have just to be brave and have a good argument to, you know, deal with it, because people confront you with it. You know, the Europeans are very tricky. You know, like they will sound friendly and chip in all this kind of you know, questions and facts. You know, that will shame you. You know, like, you know, just ordinarily. For instance, you are sitting in a bar, for instance, and a guy just comes, hey, how are you? And he draws a chair and says, where are you from? And you say, Nigeria. Oh, Nigeria is quite a huge country, you know, largest population in Africa.
And you will not thinking he's driving well.
So he's coming gradually.
Yeah.
And usually when that starts, when somebody, you know, confronts me like that, I know that, okay, I'll wait for him to drop it. So I'm already like wiring myself on how to deal with it, you know. So it's shameful, it is, you know, but it's not something that will make someone like,
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Nothing, and all of a sudden he's in the village building a big house, and you just celebrate on the buy in power. What has that got to do with the price of bread? So it's very, you know, democracy is a form of government for matured people, and Nigerians don't have the maturity. You know, of course, you're working your way through it, but half a century, a quarter of a century is enough for Nigerians to look back. Because, you know, even if you're a statistician, you know, you got to look at certain things. You have enough data now to say, hey, you know, let's look back and see 25 years, what have we gotten out of this? It's always getting worse and worse and worse. And nobody, you know, people are praying, people are wishing. You don't go through life being wishful. You go through life being willful. And willful starts from you at home asking even your own parents, how are we doing? How are we getting our money? Because if you don't start from home to be that very critical of your own life with your own parents, then what happens when they now become authority over you? They have access to the military, the police, the money. They're going to suppress you. So accountability does not exist in the life of the Nigerian family structure. Most husbands don't even talk to their wives about how money comes in, how they spend it. I remember one time, you know, when my older sister was the first lady of Gombe State during the military rule, and I came home and they were having a reception for her, and so HK, would you donate to us? I said, you know what? I didn't discuss that with my wife. So let me go back to Dallas. I talked to my wife, and she says, it's okay, then I'll send you the money. The women were so impressed. They came to me and said, what kind of a man are you? That most people would have put their money in. I said, no. I said, I don't give money that I have not budgeted. And so it's accountability and it's respect to my wife, because I couldn't go out there and throw money out and then say, you know, that is responsibility. But in our own people, in most Nigerian culture, oh yeah, you know, the governor comes to your village and throws, you know, I'm giving you guys, everybody start counting. Hey, Mr. Governor, was this money in the budget? What part of the allocation did you take this money from, and why should you do it? But you don't ask, you don't get. You know, remember the thing in the Bible, if you don't ask, you don't get. Nigerians don't ask, and that is why they don't get.
Okay, so if I understand what you're trying to say now, the impression you get from all of this is that it's becoming a culture for Nigerians to be unaccountable and not even transparent. And somehow it's getting into our political affairs, relationships, and different angle. So are you saying we should go back to our roots, how it all started, when we give accounts of things and follow it up? And do you even see that being achievable in Nigeria, looking at the rate of corruption we have right now? Do you even see any governor, even president, councillors, senators being accountable? We heard stories of different political holders resigning from the office because some of the responsibilities they are supposed to oversee at some point failed. Not necessarily because it is them directly, but maybe the people assigned to them did not carry it out and they feel it's a dent on their image. They had to resign. This is people being accountable for themselves. Do you see Nigeria growing to that level?
You know, you said a whole lot over that, which is very good.